Hey there. I had an idea. I got to write it down before I forget. Yeah, what is to do? All right. Just a rhythmic idea at this point, but hey, Bob, what's going on? So yeah, we're doing electric today. Mystery song number 20. Hey, Bruce. So I'm a little late. I'm just getting sidetracked and working on things, and it was a long day yesterday in the sun too. I don't know if you can see. I got a little bit of sun. Alex and I were doing something fun for Disney. There's a thing called Disney 23, which is it's like a club. It's like, and you get special discounts, and they have special events, and so they're always putting on events and doing different things. And so they were showing at the LA Arboretum an outdoor outdoor showing of Lilo and Stitch for its 20th anniversary. It came out 20 years ago. And so Alex had done this ukulele record for Disney, and so they wanted him to play a bunch of ukulele songs, but he could, it was like melody and strumming, so you couldn't do it by yourself. So I came there and I played melody or strum for him or whatever. So hey, Holly, missed you last week. So so that's what I was like. We were at the Arboretum, and it was about, when we got there, it was probably 95 degrees. So our sound check was in the sun at 95 degrees. And then by the time we did our first set and then our second set, it was probably, a pleasant 82, 85, something like that. It was in the shade. It was totally fine. It was just sound check that we were kind of getting things going. So, and Bob's coming in and out. Oh, Exterminator is here coming. Yeah, you don't want to be in there when they're doing exterminating. If you can help it. Hard to get a good... Yeah, elixirs won't bow. I forgot. You can't use... If you're going to have a guitar that you want to bow on, you can't use elixirs. Because the horsehair and the coated strings don't create any friction. You need friction. Oh yeah, we were going to write a spider song. So, clues about this song. We don't have hardly anyone here yet. Wow, actually we have 18. I see 18. You can smash that like button if you want. I should have a little logo that says smash the like button, but I don't. It's a pretty simple operation here. So clues. It's a classic song. It's this artist we haven't done yet, right? Yeah, I don't think we've done this artist yet. This is the 20th song. So in the previous 19, we haven't done this artist. And there may be more from this artist we will do. And I'm not teaching the whole song today. I may come back to it and finish it. Hey, Joseph, we missed you. Oh, gallstones. But at least, so a lot of people will have kidney stones and they think they have back problem, but they have kidney stones. So actually, ultimately, if they can be fixed, then that pain goes away. So are you going to get, Joseph, is it surgery, or do they do something sometimes with kidney stones, they just have to pass, or they'll do some kind of sonar thing to break them into little pieces. I don't know. Can they do that with gallstones? I'm sure it's horrible pain. Hopefully I can take your mind off it a little bit. Let me see here. I'll turn it on. So I'm integrating my new computer. I'm starting to use it. So it's over here right now, and then I'll move it over here. I still haven't gotten a camera. I got to figure out what kind of camera to get for our live stream. So hopefully it'll be a little bit better quality, although you guys are saying it's not bad. Oh, Holly had that surgery? Did you? You did? Yeah, I don't see any spiders. It's kind of warm down here. I mean, like, it was 100 degrees in the valley. First day of 100 this year, which is probably, to my recollection, the latest in the year that it finally got to 100. Yeah, about 15 minutes in, I'll start. Well, it's 9:15 now, so I started about 6 minutes ago. So we're probably looking at. I got to give out some more clues. Let's see. Okay. The guitar play. Okay, so this is a band. This is not a hard guess. We haven't done it before, so it's a band we haven't done before. So it's not the Beatles, it's not the Stones, it's not Led Zeppelin because we've done all those. It's not Pink Floyd because we've done Pink Floyd. Oh, dang. Oh, you're already at 98 degrees down there in Long Beach? Yeah, we're not there yet, I don't think. Maybe in the sun, but that's deceptive. I always get in my car after church and it says it's like 190 degrees. My favorite joke I ever spontaneously came up with was we were driving to church one time from Pasadena. We were on the 118 freeway and we're driving. So it's not like the car was sitting in a parking lot in the sun or something and, it's like really high. No, when you're moving, particularly on a freeway, you're moving at a good clip. I trust that thermometer, that reading more in that scenario than in the car sitting in the hot sun for 3 hours scenario. And it said it was 118 degrees, and we were on the 118 freeway. So I got up to church, and I'm leading worship, and I'm up there like, oh, this afternoon we were driving to church, and it was 118 degrees on the 118 freeway. And I said, it's a good thing we didn't take the 405. I love that joke. That's a good joke. It's a dad joke, but it's a good joke. Nice. Yeah, Michigan summers are typically, what was it? We were with someone yesterday from Minnesota, and they said in Minnesota they have 2 seasons, winter and construction. I go, oh my gosh. Because every summer when we drive up to Michigan, we would drive up to Michigan, like even in the last 20 years, we've gone to Michigan, 20 of the last 25 years. And they're constantly doing construction. It's like, well, yeah, they can't do it in the winter. So all those guys, what do? They just have the winter off. They must all have summer homes in Florida or something. So, hey, Rodney, what's going on? No, am I still behind? I lost your channel. No, you're not behind. We haven't even started yet. So, Chris, what's going on? Good to see you. Dennis is here finally. Classic song, Electric, a band new to the show. You need another hit. Okay, if I give this one hint, okay, so I'm going to be, okay, so both the guitar players are from a different country than the band's country of origin. I think that's right. Both of the guitar players were born in a different country. Let's see. Yeah. So yeah. It's classic. Yeah, it's definitely classic. So that's an odd. Oh, Malawi. Wow. Yeah. Well, we're gonna do some. So, and it's a rock song. So we're definitely doing rock today. I mean, you can tell by the tone. Lena, I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Let's see. All right. Let's. Oh, Layla by Derek and the Dominoes. That's a great guess. That's not. That would almost be one. Well, that song is two songs, right? Because it's kind of like the guitar, strummy electric guitar thing, and then it goes to the piano thing. So I would almost have to teach that two parts. The piano part, we change the lesson. I have to aim the camera down at my hands and play the piano. I think I can play that piano part, but I know the chords. I don't know if I play it like whoever played it. But Ocean Shores, David S., good to see you. So not the band is not Boston. No. Good guess, though. But both the guitar players. Okay, I'm going to give you a clue that pretty much is going to at least give you the band, and then you could probably easily guess the song. But the two guitar players in the band are brothers. So there's about a 30-second lag, so all of you are typing right now. Hey, Max, what's going on? Long time no see. Well, not long time. I think you were here last week, actually. I almost invariably go by the avatars more than the names sometimes, you know. I'm like, oh, Dennis changed his avatar. How long ago did you change your avatar, Dennis? It looks like a new avatar. You're right, Chris. It is AC/DC. What's the song? Allman Brothers is a great band. And they did have brothers in the band, but it was a keyboard player and the guitar player. So AC/DC is correct. The song is... Yes, Back in Black. Back in Black, we're going to learn. So if you don't know it, and it's one of those songs that oftentimes people, you know, they'll play it in guitar stores and they don't get it right. I've got a drum groove here, and I may see this is a problem. The only drag about this song is it may get taken. It may either I may not be able to monetize it, which is fine. I think regardless of whether I'm able to monetize this or not, because if I look at the last video, I do this every time, but it's like if I look at the last video, probably in streaming money, the cash money you guys give me. Like when you do a super chat or something like that, that I get 70% of, and so none of that goes to the artist claiming the copyright. So what I'll probably do is, because if I do a shared copyright thing, they will put 1,000 ads on it, and I do not like that. So, okay, so last week's lesson, let's see how much money I made on it. So $3. So it's not like I'm losing a lot of money if I can't monetize this video. All right. So I'm not going to worry about that aspect of it. Yeah, it's two brothers. I mean, can you think of any other bands that had? Well, I know the Van Halen had a drummer. Well, Allman Brothers, and then Van Halen has a drummer and a guitar player, obviously. Alex and Eddie. What other bands have brothers in? Oh, isn't Oasis brothers? Aren't they brothers? Liam and whatever. There's probably a lot of bands with brothers. Now I think about it. I think not the Killers. What's the Sex on Fire song? They're from Vegas, I think. So. Oops. That's where everybody messed up. Now there's a lot of great syncopations in this, so I've got it tabbed out. Even after this is how much I love you guys. Even after my long day where I got up at 6 a.m. and played at church all morning, and then went to Arcadia to do the D23 event, the Disney event, and then didn't get home until about 10 o'clock last night. I sat down and did this tab, so I hope you appreciate it. I'm just complaining. Here's Riff One. So I did tab, but I also want you to see, you know how I love you to see the, there we go, the rhythm stuff, okay? And it's a little hard to kind of notate this riff. And a lot of times people play the wrong chord there, play an A. And you can do an A. The bass is playing a C sharp. And so I just naturally, when I jam it when you're playing by yourself, you go, oh, okay. I want it to sound more like when I'm by myself, I want to sound more like the band. And then I look at his hand and I listen to the guitar more closely. I'm like, yeah, he's playing a C sharp in the bass, which is cool. It's just like he's going. It's like. Which is the same era. Hold On Loosely by 38 Special. That would be a good song, Dylan. That's a fun song. So it's not. It's a little more unresolved than A. So when we play this, it's basically an E power chord. You can play an E chord, but you basically want to just try to get the bottom three strings. And the song is, Sam, this is going to be one of those songs where we're in the key of A, but we're really in the key of E. So in other words, if you're going to solo over this, you're going to want to use E blues licks. You're not going to want to go to A major licks. You're not going to want to go to A blues licks. You're going to want to play an E. And one of the ways that I say you can tell when the song's in kind of a weird key, and again, this kind of thing was really. There's a million songs that use that, right? Use that E, A, D, A chord progression. And so you could call it kind of a 1-4 flat major 7 progression. But it always wants to go back to that 1. See, if we were thinking of it in the key of A, it would be, we'd playing 5, 1, 4. So it would be like 5, 4, 1. But the song, if you were to end the song, you would end on an E chord. So the first chord of the song is E, the last chord of the song is E. The overarching tonality of the whole song is an E chord or E blues or E mixolydian, which is E mixolydian is the same notes as A major. I don't want you to. Here, I haven't done this in a while. There will not be a quiz on this. So, but yeah, so we could if I'm only doing this for Sam's. Oh, you can't see the tab. Is it too small? Dang it. You know what I could do? I could chop this in half. Let me do that. Hold on a second. Yeah, it's hard because it's. So we're gonna talk about it in even smaller chunks then, okay? So that you can see it better. Oh, stop moving. Also, I can drag all this too. What do I want? Here. Boom, 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 boom. So I'm going to drag all this over. I pinned it. I didn't pin it. Sorry. We go to the top. Sorry. Have you been yelling at me to pin this? Okay. So I'm going to pin the Discord invite link. All right, guys? And so, where is it? There we go. So that's where you can get all these diagrams. All these, I'll just drag them all into the Tom's PDFs and lessons stuff, that tab. And then we'll, where are you? No, there we go. All right, so everything's gonna be dragged here. I forgot to check so I'm just gonna drag these. I think those will be good. All right, so you can go ahead and open those yourself if you want. But let's make this a little bit more one section at a time kind of thing, okay? So that's bigger, right? Of course, I got to get it off my face, but like that. I could also pull it over here. Anyway, so is that better, Sam? Was it Sam that was saying it was a problem? So it is emixily. Yeah, I would call the song emixily. Now it's funny how I actually commented on Rick Beato's video he did where they reimagined the solo on it. Him and a couple other guys, and it's funny how. I kind of commented on it. Like, I was curious, did Angus improvise it, like, on the fly? Like, just they hit tape and that's the first solo he came up with? Or did they just keep doing takes and he kept doing it? Normally, I mean, or did he write it kind of, and I say write it, but like, did he kind of piece it together during rehearsals? Or a lot of times when I'm doing a solo in the studio, I'll take my first shot at it, and then I'll go, you know what, I really liked this section here, so let me learn that real quick, and I'll figure it out and go, okay. So I'll do that again. Let me come up with a better start than I did, and I try to come up with something maybe before we hit record or once we record, kind of get in the moment. Usually when I'm soloing, like when I'm tracking rhythm, I usually sit down, but when I'm soloing, I like to stand up. There's just a certain different energy from standing and kind of getting into it a little bit. There's also a stupid trick. When you're in the studio, if I do a solo and I'm like, you know, it's like, you know, I don't know. That's just, right? If I do, that's my solo. And they'll go, oh yeah, that's good. But if I did the exact same solo, but get like real animated, same exact solo, they're like, that's amazing. So I've learned that trick. So it's a little bit more, it's a little easier to be animated when you're standing up than not. And you're like, but that's kind of like cheesy. Well, it is, but Paul Anka said it best. You know, he would always want his band to look good. And dress nice, and he would always make them dress really nice. And Paul Anka is famous for saying, people hear what they see. So you could be the best sounding band in the world, but if you don't look like the best sounding band, it was kind of what the Beatles did when they kind of dressed up initially. Once you have them, and then you can do whatever you want. Certainly, the Beatles took advantage of that leeway. So you can see, it's an E5 chord, but if you just play an E chord and kind of really, if you just try to get the bottom string and the fifth and the sixth string on this, that's going to be probably enough. That's all you really need. But if you get that, you want to hit it with some, right? So if you hit a little too hard and you go to the fourth string, that's why you aim for the fifth and sixth string. But if you grab the fourth string in there, that's fine. You could play a whole E chord. Totally sounds fine too. Okay. I'm not going to go through and analyze every downbeat of this lick and see, oh, okay, he hit. That's the trouble with some of the really good tab where they really I think it's done by bots or something, but robots, but where they go, well, the first time he hits at the bottom two strings, and then he hits the four strings, and then he hits five strings, and then he hits three strings, and one string, then three strings, then two strings, and then four strings. And it's like, no, Angus is not thinking about that. He's just, that's it. That's what he's thinking about. All right? So don't worry too much about if you get the third in there. That's fine, because like we've stated, we're in the key of E mixolydian, which has an E major chord in it. so we want, okay? And then what we have is and it's a short chord. It doesn't ring. It's not that. So that's why it looks like that. That's why it's got the flag on it. You see that thing coming off the notes? There's three low notes, E, B, E, and open second. Hopefully the tabs are right. I did check it, but I may miss something. And it's just short. And those things on the first line up here, I wish I could put my hand in front of this thing, but the top line here that look like sevens, those are eighth note rests. So it's 1, 2. That second eighth note rest is beat 2. And those two 16th notes, you can tell because they have that double bar across it. That's when you subdivide counting beats in a measure. It's 1 E and 2 E and that's and. And you can hear it. And it's like 1 and a 3, right? You can hear that 1 and a 3. Okay, so that's what you're doing. You're playing an and. Okay. Now this one's a little harder because you don't want to hit. You can't hit all 6 strings on that. You just can't. You got to be pretty targeted. So you might want to just kind of start out right again. You want to maybe aim for the middle 2 strings, and if you happen to hit the D string, the second string, totally fine. It's actually written in the tab there. Okay, and if you happen to accidentally hit the A string, again, an A note is in a D5 chord. So that note, while it kind of takes the focus off D being the bass, you're playing with a bass player. He's going. So the bass player is playing a note below that if you're playing in a band. No. Now we'll get to that in a second. But hitting that A note is not a bad thing. You can also bring your thumb around to mute the bottom string, and sometimes you can even bring your thumb all the way around if you don't have any problem making a D chord. You can bring your thumb all the way around and mute the bottom 2 strings. And that really puts the focus on that D string. Okay? And then the next chord, you can do it a couple different ways. I'm probably using my pinky right there, but I'm just barring an A chord. You can use your third finger on that C sharp. So I'm basically, my main goal is to get that 4th fret on the 5th string, and then 2nd fret on the 4th string and on the 3rd string. Okay? And it's another and up. So we have 1, 2, and a 3, 4. So we have 1, 2, and a 3, 4, and a 1. Okay? And so that when you see that da da da, it looks like it sounds. That's the great thing about music notation. If I just wrote out the tab, you wouldn't have any of that rhythmic notation. you might not be able to read it just by looking at it, but that's the great thing about music notation. It tells you exactly the rhythm. So if we can practice clapping this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, bump. Bum, 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 bum. 2, 3, again. Bum, 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 bum. 2, 3, 4. Bum, 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 bum. 2, 3. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, I programmed a little bit of drums there. So that you know that might be the, and I am doing down up down. I'm not. You could do. Now I forgot that I forgot to look at how. Let me mute this and do it. Let me check real quick. Oh, no, I don't need, no, I don't want one. Official video, this is what I want. Okay. So I just want to look and see if Malcolm, they cut to Malcolm, and I want to see if he's doing a down, up, down, or if he's doing straight. A lot of heavy metal guys are really good at the really fast downstrokes. I don't have the sound up just because I don't want to get a copyright thing. Okay, they pulled off Angus and that. Bass player's doing all downs. But he's using a pick. The bass player's using a pick. Yeah. So Malcolm's doing down, up, down. All right. So yeah, it sounds a little too intense if it's all downstrokes. It's more like speed metal, and that's totally fine. And that's a good skill to have. I don't really have it. Yeah, it's true. The Beatles kind of went through all of their different phases. Almost every record was a different haircut and a different clothing option. So, which is really amazing. It's still the Beatles. Something so magical about that. I was gonna do a video on because my video on the Get Back documentary was actually got a lot of views. I was going to do a video on can the Beatles happen again? Of course, the answer is no. No. I mean, even Beato makes the point, and like musicologists are making the point that some of the songs with the most spins on them are not the songs that are the hits, current hits. They're like Queen is like the biggest, I think the most spun song on Spotify is Bohemian Rhapsody. So it's interesting, and it's like, and Queen wasn't pop when that song in particular wasn't a pop record. That was AOR. AOR stands for album oriented rock. Okay, so or album oriented radio. They would play album cuts. Okay, I'm going to drag this over here, and I'm going to get the lick. Okay, the lick is the lick. This is the lick. You get this down, and you got something. Oh, this is the thing I was going to talk about too. The kind of the Beato, when I was talking about the solo, and I said, those guys solos did, when Beato did that reimagining the solo to Back in Black. It's kind of a weird solo to pick, but it's a fairly simple solo. I taught it to dozens of students back in the day. And I said, yeah, I wonder if Angus improvised it or wrote it. Like I said, I oftentimes will compose a solo in a session. Of different parts of solos that I like or whatever. But people were like, yeah, well, it's just pentatonics. It's stupid rock. It's stupid solo. It's like, anyone can do it. I'm like, no. See, that's the thing. It's like, yes, anyone can play an AC/DC song. I mean, I taught almost the entire AC/DC catalog to first year students, 15-year-old kids that just like, they just want to learn rock guitar, so AC/DC is perfect for that. And like, oh, a 15-year-old kid can play. Yeah, but playing it there's, a million and a million, no, 100 million and 100 million can play it. 1 in 100 million can create it. That's something that you could, these guys that say, oh, I'm so much better than Angus Young, I'm blah, blah, blah. But you could never be Angus Young. It's like, hey, keep in mind, I was a jazz snob in high school. I thought I didn't like Hendrix at all because I thought he was sloppy. And I'm like, no, he's a sloppy guitar player. And, I play better than Hendrix. I'm like, I was an idiot. Then I realized, oh, wait a minute. It's like, I can have a career in music and make a living playing and copying other people's things. But after I die, nobody's going to play anything I've ever done. Right? There's a huge gap between being able to play something. It's kind of why I'm not a big fan of music school, because in music school they teach you how to play historically what's happened already. All right, I tell musicians that ask me if they should go to music school. I say, well, what do you want to do? And they say, oh, I want to be a session musician, or I want to be an orchestral musician, or I want to blah blah blah, whatever. Then that, okay, it makes sense. But they say, oh, I want to, I want to start a band, and I want to, do a be Radiohead. And I'm like, well, don't go to music school, go to art school, because art school teaches you how to create something that didn't exist before, and music school just doesn't teach you that. Nobody that's teaching at music school. I mean, even at USC, the pop music program, it's almost all looking backwards, and looking backwards is very valuable. And I feel like when you look backwards in pop music, particularly pop music, you can study the arc or the trajectory, and then maybe predict, but nobody can predict what's going to be a hit or what style of music is going to be big in 5 years, right? Reggaeton's really big, maybe in the last 5 years. Reggaeton's a boom, ba, ba, boom, da, ba, that beat. Certain beats kind of come and go. Certain chord progressions, we've talked about this before, kind of come and go, okay? But even though this looks like a simple lick, the hardest thing to do is to play it in the right place, to start it in the right place. Because it's technically 8 notes. So you're thinking, well, if I... But it's all about where you start it. See, like, if I just play the lick without any beat, you can't tell where I'm placing that. One trick I think that you can do with this lick is go ahead and start with an upstroke. Because if we were to play these 7 16th notes, and they sound like this: 1, 2, 3, da 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 da, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a. That's technically the rhythm, but there's actually a bend in there, so you kind of have to figure out where to place that to get it to sound right. And Angus is really consistent on this. So it's almost like they copy and pasted, and they didn't have that ability back then. Hey, Catherine, good to see you. Yeah, and that's good. I feel like, and there are people that come out of music school and end up being songwriters, but songwriting is one of those things where you've got to, it's different. If you're writing country songs, or if you're writing blues songs, that's, if you're writing classical pieces is different. That classical is almost always treated like an art form. So if you're studying classical composing, you're definitely looking forward. That's a different study. But instrumental studies, oftentimes they look back. I'm just not been impressed with a lot of programs. A friend of mine got his master's in composition at Juilliard. In fact, I was just texting him a couple days ago. And he studied with John Corigliano, who's an amazing composer, and has done a few movies, but that's not really his thing. He mainly does, and it's pretty out there stuff. When Stravinsky first dropped Rite of Spring, people were throwing things. And so it was hard to listen to. But Some of the music that's being created today is a little hard to listen to, but it's very forward-thinking. That's how the classical composers think. But if you do a country record, you almost don't want to be too far ahead of the curve because you want to create something that fits in the genre at the time. I always say if you're gonna produce a country record, you're gonna want a drummer and a bass player and an acoustic guitar and electric guitar, maybe pedal steel, maybe fiddle, maybe banjo, right? Maybe keys, piano, sure. If you're gonna produce a blues record, pretty much gonna be guitar, bass, and drums. Maybe keyboard player, maybe harmonica, right? If I'm gonna do a jazz record, I'm gonna have the drummer and a bass player and a piano player. There's your foundation. Probably sax. Guitar's not gonna be high on the list, but sax, maybe trumpet, then maybe guitar or something like that. But you've got kind of a set thing. So I'm gonna do a pop record production. Well, what are you gonna have on it? Yes, it can be anything. I mean, Eleanor Rigby was a pop hit, and so was Twist and Shout, all within just a couple of years of each other. So, and that's just the 60s. So with pop music, it's a complete blank slate. There may be certain expectations from the melody, and certain expectations from the groove or tempo or key, but everything's pretty much open. But with country, you're gonna have a certain kind of set of parameters that you can stick with. I always say worship music is the most formulaic type of music, and I wrote some worship music back in the day, mostly in the '90s. And the things you have to take into consideration is you want the lyrics to be biblical. You can't say something that's not scriptural. So you've got this book that kind of tells you, okay, your lyrics have to stay within these parameters, and then also you have to think about the range of the piece, because you don't want a song just because you're a good singer and you can sing 12 octaves or whatever. It doesn't exist, but if you can sing multiple octaves, the church can't. So you really want to keep it within an octave. I usually went D to D, like this D. That's as high as I wanted to write a melody. There was a song called "Shout to the Lord" that was really big, and it went from C sharp to E. And it was tough to sing because of that. It's like, how do you start this song? It's like, so you have 5 cats, Pepper. Dang, I just have 1. So, all right, all of that to say, creating is much different than copying. Anybody can copy, but not anybody can create. That's far more rare. Yep. Okay. So this lick. All right. So 1, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So the lick starts right after 3. 1, 2. Right there. 1, 2, 3. Okay. You see that? So we break down 16th notes into 1 E enda, 2 E enda, 3 E enda, 4 E enda. This is on the 3 E, the E of 3. 3 E enda, 4 E enda. 1. I'm going to say, I could say 3. 1, 2, 3. All right? And you got to get ready to go right to that E chord. 1, 2, 3. So I would use my 3rd finger on this note. Then we're going to go open. 3rd finger again. 3rd finger, and then maybe your 2nd finger with your 1st finger behind it to get that bend. Because it's very hard to bend a string when you're this close to the nut. If you can push it a little bit, you can feel how tight it is, right? Go to the 7th fret. You can feel how much easier it is. Go to the 12th fret. That's the easiest fret. Okay, the string's really loose there. So you're really going up against, literally and figuratively, going up against the nut here. This is called the nut. And we go to the open string. And you might pull off. Yeah, I think he pulls off. I should have notated that, but I don't know how to. I did notate it, but it didn't copy down for some reason. So when I drag the notes down to the tab, it automatically fills it out, and then you have to make some corrections. But it didn't drag what I wanted. So, okay, so just the mechanics of it. Again, if you start with an upstroke, that'll help you because it'll help you think about where you are. Because normally if you are playing 4/16 notes, 1 E-enda, you would go down, up, right? Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, let's start with that. Do that. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, now let's get rid of that first down and just go up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So 1, up, 1. That's hard. Okay, that's pretty hard. But that's what you're going to start. We're going to go up, down, up. Oh no, I say up, down, up on the B string, and then so it's going to be up, down, up, down. I think you get that far. If you start with an upstroke, it'll help you place that first note on the E of 3 E-enda. Okay? Well, some praise music, bless the Lord of my soul, depends. Some hymns have a lot of chords. Hymns will change on every quarter note, right? A mighty fortress is on God, whatever. But worship songs can just be 3 chords or 2 chords. Well, not 2, 3 or 4 or 5 chords generally. And usually it's like, a lot of times it's 1 chord per bar, so it's pretty simple stuff. If you listen to contemporary worship. Okay, so again, we're going to start 1. 1. 1. If you can see me. More important to see the guitar than the face. 1. 1. 1. Up, down, up, down. We won't worry about that in a second. Okay, so I want that 1. 1. Up. 1. E-enda. E-enda. 1. E-enda. 2. 1. Okay, so that's you got to get that placement. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay? So you hear where that's happening. 2, 3, E-enda. 1. And yet that note is 4. So that open beat should land on the snare hit. 2, 3. Can you hear that? 1, 2. Up. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay, slow it down. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Up, down, up, down. 2, 3. Okay, so yeah, it's basically a very simple lick, but the placement is the hard part. And if you start with an upstroke, I think that really helps you place it on that 1/16 note over. Okay, and then this lick, you can just you hit that, and so it's again another upstroke. We're gonna hit that 2nd fret. Okay, we're gonna. All right. Let's check my tune. What is that? Yeah, it was a little flat. Sorry about that. Should have tuned from the get-go. Yeah, and this is, like I said, the lick in capital letters. And it's a little weird, but you can kind of think of it like that. So almost like it is a blues lick, because that's when we're bending up that 2nd fret on the 3rd string. We're bending up to the 3rd fret. That's a blues. That's the flat 5. We learned about the blues scale a long time ago. So we're bending up to that blues note, back down, and then open. Okay. If we want to, we can think of it without the bend. It would sound basically like this. One. That's basically what's happening. The only thing is we want to, instead of playing that B flat, we want to bend to the B flat and come down to this note. So. And I really feel like that pull off really kind of gets your hand going towards that E chord. All right. That one's a hard one too. It's very syncopated. That's what's so amazing about this song. It's rock, but it's not like it's not like bang your head against a wall rock. It's like, man, this is syncopated stuff here. And it's at the time was groundbreaking. That record was huge. I mean, there were so many songs that AOR radio played, which I think is redundant, right? Album-oriented radio played, almost just on loops. I mean, you turn on the radio, half the time it would be AC/DC song, and this is 1980, I think, is when this came out. That pull-off is a 30-second note. It's kind of more of a grace. The pull-off, no, I think the pull-off is a 16th note. I would call that a grace, Sam. It's really weird though because the grace is on in between the first 16th note and the second 16th note. So you kind of, yeah, it's a tricky lick. I think again, if you start with upstroke, if you make sure you're one and one. Don't start on the downbeat. That in the guitar start. That's a different song. I don't even know how you would play the other part wrong. It's hard to do almost for me. Yeah, so yeah, and sometimes I think that B string is still ringing out when he does it. It's this nice dissonance. So yeah. I didn't program the drums to do that lick, but the drums put down. They imitate that. I should add that in there. Okay, so let's move on to the next lick. Okay, so the next lick. So you already have the next bar. The next bar is just that E5, D5, and A over C sharp, right? So here's what that looks like. Whoops. Okay, but again, because if I make it small enough to fit next to my head here, we can't read it. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to cut it in half, okay? So just got to make a couple of copies of this. Oh, no. What? No. Oh, I accidentally did the wrong one. Hold on. All right. Am I going too slow? I'm sorry. Okay, so actually, we don't need the first half. We already have the first half. It's just the boom bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-dum. So that's what we're going to work on. But I'm going to include that first beat so you can kind of see. All right. So this is better. This is bigger so you can see it. All right. Does that work? So that's the A over C sharp there on the right. On the left. Yeah, 2 to 3. Yeah. Yeah, it's like a grace note. Basically that's what that note means. It's just you're on it so short that it doesn't even warrant a value. I thought about making the less likely a 32nd note. It might be part of a triplet 16th. In other words, I've never seen it, but I could basically make those middle 3 notes be triplet 16ths. So it would be a 16th, 3 triplet 16ths and a 16th, and that would equal 1 beat. But man, if I've never seen that, I can't imagine, Angus Young. I mean, he's probably spontaneously playing it, something to that effect. But you asked about I don't even know any Avenged Sevenfold songs. Sorry, they're too hip for me. I mean, what little I've heard of them, it's probably pretty intense, pretty hard stuff. But I'll look at. I couldn't play it. I wouldn't want to play it because I might get a copyright strike. So here's the thing about this lick. If you'll notice, not only is every other note in these little teeny groupings a B note right here. You're going to want to get that with your first finger, that second fret on the 6th string. The last note, the last 2 notes are both B's, played in 2 different spots. And so play B, all right? Now what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and go up here, play G sharp, play A sharp, and play B, all right? You have G sharp. Oh, remember, key signature is a G sharp, so that's why that G is a G sharp. So 4th fret, 5th fret, 6th fret, 7th fret. That's basically what you're doing. It's like ba-da, 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 ba-da. And what that rhythm is it's just a bunch of 16th notes with pairs of 16th notes with a 16th note rest in between them. So 1, 2, ba-da, da-da, 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 1, 2, 3. I'm not even gonna try to do that. 3E up. 3E up 4 and 3E up 4. Wait, no, it's 2E and that's 1. Yeah, so it's let's see. And you notice there's a slide on that last beat. It just sounds so good, when you do that. It's like. And you have an 8th note to get there, but it's like you want to milk that. That's like the most important part. Okay. Now, one thing it sounds like to me that they're doing is they're really almost hitting all the strings. So there's what's called a rake going on. And so what you want to get this B note, but you want to get it in a manner where you're deadening everything else. So maybe having this. It's a tough thing to get down. This is not easy, okay? So if at first you just go, which is also hard because of this giant stretch, but when you see people play it, including them, and keep in mind, Angus Young is 5'2", I think. Malcolm looks even shorter because when he's got that Gretsch on, he looks like a little boy. In the video for this, the official video for this song, Malcolm looks like a little boy with that giant Gretsch that he's playing, right? He plays a Gretsch, I think. And so, you can use your first finger. You're always going to use your first finger on this B note. B, and then the G sharp. B, the A. You can maybe get your pinky on there. The B, this A sharp. And see, my finger's coming off that B. But you want to go back to it. See, or at the very least, when I finally get to this B, there's no reason to keep your first finger there, because you're not going back to it, right? You're going to be sliding down off of the pinky note. So at that point, you can definitely don't need to have your anchor finger there. That B finger is your anchor finger. Okay, you don't need that anymore. You can just go right to there. And that's what you'll see them do when they play it. They'll kind of, at that point, they'll go away from the 2nd fret. Yeah, sadly though, I've had to share. I think it's just funny because when I did the Pink Floyd song, there was an offending snippet, and I'm like, really? It was towards the end too. So I just went ahead and I didn't listen to the context. I just went ahead and cut it out. It's like a minute, so there might be like a gap in that one. Like, what happened? You stopped playing, but by letting YouTube cut that part out, I was no longer guilty of copyright infringement. So there is fair use, but fair use is technically meant for schools. So in other words, schools, if they're going to teach a class and there's 30 kids in the class, then schools don't have to pay a royalty to Paul McCartney and John Lennon to teach people how to play Help or something, or Yesterday, or Lady Madonna, or whatever. And I agree with that. As far as on YouTube, it's not a classroom. It is a lesson, but I'm broadcasting. Broadcasting is a perfect, legitimate royalty situation. Keep in mind, most of my income comes from royalty, so I'm glad for that. But yeah, so I don't really have a problem getting hit with it necessarily. The one I had a problem with was funny because I commented on Rick Beato's video, and that comment's gotten like hundreds and hundreds. In fact, even Rick liked the comment. But it was when I was playing for you guys, I was playing Louis Milan Six Pavanas. I was telling you how it's a great classical guitar piece to play at a wedding because it's fairly easy to play. You can't put the third fret. It sounds like the lute. I played it, and I was showing you this, and it's a 500-year-old piece. So it's like 425 years past its any potential kind of copyright, protection. I mean, it became public domain before America became a country. That's how old this song was. And yet I got a copyright strike on it. And I'm like, who? Well, how? And it was some florist in like Ohio or something that had used a performance of it. And I wasn't playing someone's performance. I was actually performing it. But they used someone's performance in their video, and somehow that got deemed as an original piece of music. And so I challenged it and won. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to, yeah. So I haven't lost a challenge yet. Exactly, yeah. Yeah. And sometimes some copyrights, see, that's the thing. If it's a performance of an old piece, like if someone's performing, that's copyrighted because a record company paid for that record to be made. They own the masters. But if it's a song that's old and you play it, I think It Had to Be You is now public domain. I just played it on a movie soundtrack, and I said, "Oh, you can use this song," and they go, "It's public domain now." I'm like, "Wow, that's crazy." It had to be you, which that melody does seem like it's 70 years old, 75 years old. Mm-hmm. Tom's Guitar School Incorporated, yeah. Yeah, but we're broadcasting, so I totally agree with the thing. So I don't mind either cutting out snippets. I'm not going to share. I don't mind turning off. Like I said, I make about $3 from these videos. I make a lot more money from your super chat than I make from the videos. Okay, so you can probably, if I 2, 3, 4, 1, da, 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 you could probably clap that rhythm without even thinking about it because you know how the song goes. But for those who are curious, that's what it looks like. So it looks like pretty much a chaotic mess of symbolism, symbology. But if you look at those first, I'm not talking about the A over C sharp. I'm talking beat 2. And you'll notice the bars all connect. They connect over those rests, those 16th note rests. That's so you can see beat 2, beat 3. The only problem is when you have a rest on the beginning of a beat, you don't really have that bar. Technically, you can have a bar go over. You can extend that bar over if you want. I did not do that. I don't know how to do it, but I've seen it. But you'll notice those first two, beat 2 and beat 3, to make notation easier to read and to look more linear. See, if you wrote all those out as individual, like if you tied those middle two, the 2 and 5, if you tied those two together, it would be almost unreadable. So this allows you to see the beats go by 1, 2, 3, 4. So beat 1 is that chord. Beat 2 is that B note there, that first B note. Beat 3 is that A note here, probably playing with their pinky, okay? And beat 4 is a rest. That rest that looks like a double 7 thing, okay? That's a 16th note rest. And again, one beat is broken up into 4 16ths. So that second beat is 2 16ths, a 16th note rest, and another 16th. Right? That's what that is. 1, 4, 1. I wouldn't practice that. That's not a snippet. That's a snippet. Okay, practice that. Practice this. Okay, this one's awesome. You got a B and a B flat, essentially, A sharp. Nice little, like, it's like, it's awesome. It's such a great, you know, and it's kind of a blues, right? It's that, you know, blues thing. It's like, it's kind of a jazz thing almost. And then the pull off is the best part. The slide down is the best part. Thank you everybody for watching and for liking. Again, I'm sorry if I'm kind of going off on squirrel tangents here, but I'm keeping a tab on the trying to watch the. Oh, okay. So Australia. Oh, yeah, Australia is 50 years. Interesting. I did not know that. Yeah, that's. I'm using my pinky, Sam. Yeah, but you can use your third. You got tons of time to get to it, and even from it. To me, the pinky just feels more natural, but some people may not feel natural with the pinky. And you can use the third on that. So third finger, first finger, first finger. Our pinky. Okay, now, I'm actually not doing the proper picking direction for this. I'm strumming up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay, I think that's what they're doing. It sounds like this. So this is what I was talking about, the raking thing. A rake that's a rake. So deaden your strings. Either direction is a rake. It's called a rake, R-A-K-E. Like you rake your yard with a rake. That's a rake. This is a rake. But usually you use a rake to get to a note. It's like so Stevie Ray Vaughan used rakes all the time. And if I play that same lick without the rakes, it sounds like Elvis Presley, right? He was like, he's hitting all the strings, but he's also deadening all the strings except the one note he wants to come out. That is a hard skill to get down, but you can practice it. But like you just determine where are you playing the note. Where's the note? Okay, if the note's on the bottom string, you know, then like here I'm on the 5th string, not the bottom string, but it's going to be easier to get a rake going up. And then the downstroke on all these is just the bottom string. So that's it. Ah, shoot. Yeah, you got to remember to start with an upstroke. I think personally, that's how I do it. And so you hear that? All of that is in there, plus this. So I'm deadening. I'm basically deadening everything with my first finger. I'm getting this note, the B note, and I'm deadening the top 4 strings with this part of my first finger, and then I'm deadening the bottom string in case I hit it with this finger. But I could also deaden it with these fingers here because I'm getting ready to go up on that string. So but that's something you're going to need to practice. And you can. Now, if I'm going to do I'm going to play the third string. I'm going to do like a rake on a third string. I'm going to probably deaden. See, I'm deadening with my first finger behind that note. And if I'm going to use my first finger to get to, I'm going to deaden with these strings. And just kind of, or these fingers, and just get my finger out of the way. So the raking thing is a way to give you a lot of energy and a lot of just nastiness, right? It's just like, it's that thing we like blues or hitting the right note where it's just like the blues note. You just make that face like something smells bad. And it actually helps you play it like that. You got to make the face to get it to work. Does that make sense? Oh, hey, Bops, what's going on? Knowledgeable guitarist on YouTube. Well, oh, so you're watching another channel? You know, it's funny because I mean, in some ways I'm knowledgeable and I really try to look at things different ways. Also, the other thing I'm trying to do, I'm always, you know, there's 4 or 5 different ways we learn. You know, we homeschooled and all 3 of our kids learned 3 different ways. And I did horribly in school because they just said, memorize this, memorize that. And I can't. I'm awful with memorization. Just awful. But let me take something apart and put it back together again. But I'll have to, I can take it apart once, but I'll have to put together about 5 times. Finally, but I'll learn a lot in that process. Let me deconstruct and reconstruct, all right? And that's how I learn. So a lot of times when I'm teaching, I'm like, okay, memorize this, or do it this way, or do it this way, or do it this. So I'm trying to come at the same concept, whether it be reading rhythms, or understanding or playing rhythms, or talking about the rake, whatever. I try to talk about from multiple perspectives. That's why it takes me so long to teach a stupid lesson. If we were doing one-on-ones, private lesson, it wouldn't be like this. Because within a month of teaching lessons, and again, I don't teach privately anymore, but within a month or less, maybe, you know, within 2 lessons, I understand how that student learns. And so then I could teach to that. That's why I was a good teacher. I could teach to that method. You know, I would teach that methodology for that student, and then a different methodology for a different student. Every student was different. I did not, unless it was like a 7-year-old, like a little kid, and they needed tasks, I would take a book like Alfred's Basic Guitar Method or Mel Bay's Method, and I would use those. But yeah, so I take a while to teach these, you know. And I'm also like, okay, I don't want you just to be able to play that. I want you to be able to like do a rake anytime you want it. Oh, thanks, Lena. You know, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's like the rake implies so much energy, so much, like I said, nasty, make that stink face. It just implies so much rock and roll, blues, devil may care kind of vibe that it's a really good skill to have, but it's a really hard to skill. I've always said one of the most impressive things to me about Eddie Van Halen wasn't all that stuff. The most impressive stuff to me was that he was playing so loud. Actually, I found out now that he wasn't playing as loud as I thought. But he was playing pretty loud. You could tell, like on some of the recordings, you can, oh yeah, no, he's cranked. But he also had a power thing, power attenuator on his amp, so he would take from like 110 down to like 50. So they would sag and they wouldn't have enough power, and that's how he got a lot of his brown tone, as they call it, like a brownout kind of thing. But to be able to keep all those strings from ringing out and all the unwanted noises that come when you play really, really loud, okay? So that is a lot about how you create a rake. You know, the rake generally is you playing one note and deadening 5 others. And so when Eddie played, he would play all his riffs, you know, but he would be deadening so many strings and preventing, like, all the unwanted sounds wouldn't be there. And he made it look so effortless. Just unbelievable. So that's, yeah. I think he's one of the hardest guitar players to truly imitate. So again, I think it's up, and you can just practice doing that. And you do not need to know how to read this rhythm because you already have this rhythm in your head because you've heard this lick so many times. The beauty of this lick is it does happen to start on a downbeat. It starts on 2. So you know. So you don't really have to worry about. Hold on a second. You don't have to worry about finding that moment. Again, I didn't program the drums to include that rhythm. That rhythm is actually in the drums. But yeah, thank you, Lena, so much. Lena's learning some back of like, hey, you should play this on piano and sing it. So I wanted to do a record of all bunch of different versions of Amazing Grace, and everybody did like Amazing Grace to the melody of Gilligan's Island and what's the what's that? Shoot, I can't think of it, but the classic kind of theme. I can't think of it, but anyway, everybody did that, and so I wanted to do it to different songs, and Back in Black was one. It was like, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, to save the wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. So it's just like, Amazing Grace. So I have about a dozen of them. I think I even did Stairway to Heaven. Purple Haze is another one. Purple Grace. Amazing Haze. All right, so again, so both those licks are hard. That's why I'm like spending so much time on this. You know, it looks like an easy lick. It feels like an easy lick, but the placement is key. And then that pull off that Sam we're working on, trying to figure out where does that fall, or the bend, that kind of grace thing. Finding the spot for that, the perfect spot for that's hard. And then this, it's not. You can practice that. You can make an exercise out of that. Again, when you get to this last note, you don't need to keep your finger down here. You can just go to get that note. Go get it. Get it, boy. It's like throwing the ball. Get it. And then let it slide off, because that's really, again, the slides, those kind of messy things are what make it rock and roll. You know, we could do. Anyway, it's like. Make it all beboppy. But it's that mess, and in this case, that the raking that is in this particular lick that really gives it magic and makes it like, yeah. And those guys that say, oh, well, yeah, he wasn't a very good guitar player. I could do everything. I could play everything he plays. Besides those guys being stupid, they never would have created that lick. In a million years, they never would have come up with that idea. Okay? So we got our palette of licks here. All right. Dang. See, we're already an hour in. I was going to, what is this? Okay. I dragged the next section. I may break this up into a 2-lesson one and either finish this next week or in 2 weeks when we go back to electric. The next sections aren't as hard, actually. Just the timing. So the timing on it is weird because it's a common rhythm. And again, I'm going to have to chop these in half, I think, to make them, more readable. So let me delete this. Or remove, I should say. Duplicate. Duplicate. I should have been. It actually did occur to me that these might be too long of files, and I don't need to. I can just do that. So should I keep going? So the nice thing about this is basically just power chords. Pretty simple stuff. Exactly, Tim. Oh, country, AC/DC. So Angus and Malcolm and Angus were born in Scotland, Glasgow, but the band was from Australia. So they must have moved to Australia as kids. I know I teach Cruz Beckham guitar lessons. David and Victoria Beckham's sons. I teach him guitar lessons sometimes. And he actually ran into Angus in the streets of London. So I think he lives in London now, but that was pretty cool. He sent a picture. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so dope. You and Angus Young. So, yeah, so this is... It's pretty much, that's pretty simple. The only thing is you got to start on the end of one. And it's very syncopated rhythm. That rhythm notation is actually not hard to read for somebody who's familiar with rhythmic notation, but it's one. And it's the same rhythm pretty much all the way through the whole segment. So you're off beat one. And then I'll show you that lick maybe another time. Again, a very syncopated thing. So this song has got such great syncopate. It's not just your typical like. Yeah, that's what makes it. That's what made it so unique at the time in particular. So again, let's just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay, now let's go make the A chord. And I'm just playing an A power chord. So I'm fifth string open, 2nd fret, 2nd fret. I'm really just trying to. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1. It's the entrance that's key. 1. 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1. Yeah, they were 1980 is when this record came out, I think. And I was still in Indiana teaching at Phelan's music studio, which is called Carmel Music Studio now, in just north of Indianapolis. And I taught there until January of '83, and I probably taught this song 50 times in those 3 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, and then we're gonna go. Then we're just gonna hit the low E. And you can take your hand off the A chord if you want. Then we're gonna go to B, power chord. So we're going to be 2nd fret, 4th fret, 4th fret, and this is all on the 5th string there. 5th string, 4th string, 3rd string. And just take off the 1st finger, and that's the B5 over A. 1, 2, 3. Okay? 1. Slow. 1. downstrokes. It's all going to be downstrokes, okay? So that's that lick, and it's in the Discord. So if you join the Discord group, you can get that lick. All right. I don't mean to go by too fast, but bum, bum. We can try to clap that whole rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, bum, 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 bum. 1, bum, 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 bum. Almost sounds like triplets, right? 1, bum, 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 bum. 1, 2. Like we're doing a 3/2 kind of thing. It's kind of like that. It might actually be that. If I were to, say, try to get those as even as you can. It feels more like. Yeah, it feels more like that last chord is on the and of beat 4, so I'm pretty sure it's this. As I wrote it out, okay? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and grab all of these and just delete them, get them out of our way. Oh, sorry, Bruce, I need to change the name, don't I? All right. Save. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, and if they tag me, it's very, very likely that the song's going to get tagged for copyright. I'll just demonetize it. In fact, I should probably just do that now, but that's all right. All right. The next lick. Did I do that one too? That's that one. Okay. The next lick is G chord, D chord, and then back to A chord. All right. So again, you know, Sam, to kind of commit to one particular key in this. Now, the G chord is a common chord if you're playing in kind of a rock song in E blues or E mixolydian or whatever, you know. That G chord is not uncommon. We also have a B chord. We just had a B chord, which in the key of E mixolydian would be a B minor chord. But there's no tonality. It was a B5 chord, so there's no third. It's just a B and a fifth, B5. And in this case, B and an F sharp. Yeah, just make a G chord. You can play full G chord, or I'm not using my first finger here. I'm deadening that string, so I'm kind of keep it like a G5. And then I'm going to a legitimate D chord because I hear that F sharp in there. Yeah, the drums. Oh, yeah, especially. The drums there, kick, snare, kick, snare. Okay, so if you have an Apple computer, you have GarageBand, you can totally pull up like the Stadium kit or the Garage kit or whatever the most rock kick kit sound is, and just go kick, snare, kick, and then I added, let me mute the kick and snare. There's hi-hat, there's kind of a loose hi-hat in there too. And I quantized it, so it's on the beat, and the tempo is 94 beats per minute. That's 94 beats. That's the beauty of it. You can program this, and we can drop it down to 84, for example, if we need to work on it. Oh, let me go back to it. And let's see, tempo. Here's 84. upstroke on that first beat. But that's 84 beats per minute. So you can feel that that's slower. But again, you can take it down to 74, 64, 60, 50, whatever you want. If you start to take it down too slow, you might want to add a hi-hat on every 16th note instead of just on the, or on every 8th note, to give you a little bit more subdivision so you don't get, 50 beats per minute is a long time between beats. You can smoke a cigarette between beat 1 and beat 2 at 50. So it's really, really hard to play in time at that slow of a tempo. Usually what I do if the song is going to be at 50 or 54, somewhere down there, I double the click. So it's giving me 8th note clicks instead of quarter note clicks. I prefer quarter note clicks for the most part. Yeah, it's a very Billie Jean kind of, but I didn't program it based on the record. I just wanted to give myself something to play with because it does that and I didn't program that in there, right? I could do it, but that's a different live stream. Okay, so this is just same rhythmic location. 1 ba 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 ba, but it's just. And I didn't put the bend on that G note there, that 3rd fret on the A chord, but you can totally kind of, again, it's a skank or stank. You want to do a stanky thing, You don't want to bend a G sharp. You don't want to bend a A. You want to bend just somewhere between G and A. It's like I told you that Middle Eastern music, they have notation for 54 notes per octave. We have notation for 12 notes per octave, right? A, E, F, F sharp, G, and so on and so forth. They have 54 notes per octave, so they can divide. Well, we do too. Like that's a note that in Arabic music it would be a G with a sharp sign, but instead of having 2 lines across, it would just be 1 line, and it would be that note. And so they actually would go, oh, I want this note. I don't want that note. I want this note. So, but we're in rock music and blues music. Vocal music has always done it, but vocalists have always been able to do it. But yeah, you give it a little pull. You pull it down, not to there, not to G sharp. We don't want that far. Just give it a little. And again, it's one of those things where if you make a face like something smells bad, stanky, it works. It's just that it just works. So the key on this one is to get that much down. The G, D, A, and then timing on it. 1, ba, 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 ba. It's very syncopated. But again, you've heard it so many times that you probably can play it without thinking about it. I don't want to give you so much to think about, and I'm bummed that the chord names transferred. I didn't want them to on this, but anyway, we don't need G5 twice on there and D twice and all that. But anyway, that was what happened when I dragged it down. I would love for you to be able to read syncopated rhythms, but only if you're going to need that kind of skill. Most of us don't need that skill. I use that skill literally every day. I read music almost every day for something. And part of the reason why I think I stay pretty busy, because a lot of guitar players can't, a lot of even session players in town can't read music. So they're losing out on those gigs, and I get gigs that other players can't do a lot of times. There's a lot of things I can't do, but there's also things that instruments I play, and I can read music for any instrument, so that's the other thing. It's like I could read music notation for oud or whatever. So a lot of metaphors. Okay, then there's, it goes, after it does the G, D, A thing, right? It goes back to the A, low E. Okay, again, that's what you want to practice, that little first part. And you use that open E, that low E note, as your transition moment to change to the B5 chord. And then the B5 over A is just take your first finger off. And you can go really exaggerated like that. Now, I would recommend basically keeping your hand hovered over it. But because it's rock and roll and you're putting on a show, right? It's like Derek Smalls from Spinal Tap he liked the key of E and the key of A because he could make the devil sign while he plays the low E note. He's like, woo, rock and roll, you know. So he was like, it's pretty funny. There's a great interview with them from like 1990 or about that in Guitar World magazine. I actually still have it. And Nigel, actually, it's funny because Nigel talks about face mouth position when you play guitar. Like, you should do this when you're playing this lick. And you know, like, it's just, and he had his own notation too. He's like, A, and an A with a dot after it is like above A. So if the dot's up here, but if the dot's down here, then it'd be A flat and an A sharp. And it's like, well, why not just use A sharp? And no, but I have a dot. If you're a fan of Spinal Tap, you can know. And I've met Christopher Guest. I actually did a Christmas party. I got hired to do this Harry Shearer's kind of annual Christmas party. I did it 1 year because Lukather couldn't do it. So that was fun. It was the first time I ever subbed for Steve Lukather. It's the only time I ever subbed. Two Dog Circus here. Yeah, you got dogs keeping you busy. Kathy, am I on the big screen? So soon I got to get a new camera and I'm going to move. You know, I've got some screens and things like that, but they don't have cameras on them. So I'm going to have to get a camera specifically for what we do. Might be a slightly different perspective. Might be able to have maybe a more wide angle lens or something on it. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Oh, no worries. Sam left. Oh, his head. Okay, sorry about that, Bruce. Thanks. Okay, so then we can get rid of this. The last lick is basically G and D, okay? Play G 3 times and D 3 times. Let me delete this, remove. And so that looks like this. Is it this one? No. Yeah, here it is. Again, it copied the same. It copied the chords. I wish it could do that. But anyway, yeah. So it's just, and again, the rhythm is syncopated, but it's bum bum bum. So with the drums. Oh, I gotta go back to 94. Down, up, down, because if I were to look at those different 16th notes, you know, the first one would obviously be a downstroke, and that third chord would be a downstroke because it's on the and of the beat 2, but the second strum is actually on the of beat 1, one e and da. So it's, but don't worry about that. Just imitate it. You can do all downstrokes too. They probably do that. You might be able to tell by listening if they're doing all downstrokes on these or not. But because there's so much space, I'm not asking you to play a bunch of 16th notes in a row. We can do all downstrokes. You know, if it was that, then we probably would do, you know, we'd do down and up strokes. Okay. I did get my Mac Studio. I've got running, but there's a couple software programs that I use in Logic, sample libraries that are not quite working right yet. Even Valhalla reverbs are kind of acting funny. So at least in record mode, I don't know if they're acting funny in bounce mode. I need to kind of try to make sure that I'm not bouncing something where the reverb's turning on and off, well, you know, in the thing. But so that my Mac Studio, it's humming along. The only thing I don't like, and I've got a new MacBook MacBook Pro too, is that in order to save the planet, it's always all the different apps or the windows, they go to sleep too fast. And I'm not talking about like the window, because you can set that to never go off, and I don't set it that way. But there's an app that they actually were going to ban and they didn't, but it's called amphetamine, and it keeps. You can use it and you can set it so it keeps like the windows awake and things like that, because it's just, when you upgrade to a computer, like the computer I'm using right now with you guys is my 2014 iMac Pro. Or I don't even think it was a Pro. I think it's just an iMac. And I had it upgraded somewhat, bigger hard drive, more RAM. But usually, that's 8 years old. So when you go to a new computer, you should be noticing the speed should be insane. And as far as I can tell, there's no difference, because Logic is not super. I mean, it's not really that intensive. It's not like Final Cut Pro or some of the video editing or the animation stuff. Those things take a lot more RAM than music stuff for the most part. Unless I'm recording an orchestra, then you want like a ton of RAM. And but what I am noticing is that the applications go to sleep. Like if you like look away, or you're running different applications and you're going back and forth between windows, within 3 or 4 minutes they're asleep, and you got to wait for them to wake up. So it's not faster, it's slower. So my old, like this Mac doesn't do that, but now they do it, and it's my only assumption is that they're trying to save the planet, and I get it, but it's like, yeah, I'm trying to do my job. So you're making my job take I won't be able to shut the computer off until midnight instead of 9, because everything's falling asleep on me. So I don't know what ultimately saves the planet or not, but amphetamine worked great on the laptop. So like if I turn on amphetamine, and it's just a little button up there, it's now it's there, and it's free. So, and there's no like it doesn't get any information. It's not that kind of app. So it just keeps everything awake when you want it on. So yeah, and that's and it's one thing too. Catherine, if you buy, like if you're running an app, like I love it when my computers are all working for me, like if I'm uploading, or if I'm bouncing, or if I'm doing some kind of rendering or something like that. It's so much fun to have like all your computers working. You're like, oh, I'm the master of my universe, right? So as long as, like, if you got something that like takes, will take all day to chop, like I know like animators that have, when they go to render, it's like we render at night because it's cooler and it's just going to take forever. So we work with unrendered material, and then we render after that. And so if you got stuff that, yeah, they won't go to sleep on you there if it's actually doing something. It's just if I'm like working in this app and I want to go, oh, I got to go to this window, or I got to go to mail, or I got a text or something and I want to answer it. It's like, oh gosh, wake up. It just takes, it's like, you get the spinning, not the spinning beach ball, but just the spinning app thing. And it's like, oh my gosh. No, you could do Logic. I mean, I use Logic. It's only $200, so it's super reasonable. And I thought when I bought the new Mac, I was going to have to buy it again, but I didn't. It just transferred. So, and it upgraded. So I got to upgrade on Logic for free. And I mean, I have so many Mac products. It's ridiculous. That's why I own Mac stock, Apple stock, because it's like I always hedge my life. When the kids were little, we were going to McDonald's all the time. I said, well, I might as well buy McDonald's stock. It's full circle, right? Good money in, bad money out, or whatever that is, And same thing, I bought Chevron when gas prices hit $5 a gallon here in 2007. That was a long time ago. That was 15 years ago. That was like $9 today. And yeah, it's an energy save thing that they do, but it's like, it's not saving energy because I'm having to work longer. It's slowing me down, which is not good. So, and I generally turn everything off at night when I'm done, or put it to sleep. But yeah, so yeah, I bought Chevron stock. It did really well. So every time the gas went up a dime, I made $100 on my stock. So I'm big on hedging your life. I go to Starbucks all the time. I own Starbucks stock, and I bought Starbucks in 2008 when the market collapsed, and I thought, well, what are in the Great Depression, there were two businesses that did well during the Great Depression. Only two, really. And one was the movies, because people wanted to escape, right? It was a nickel to go to a movie, and you'd go to a movie and you'd see people living the high life that you couldn't live, and that made you happy for some reason, you know. And now it doesn't work that way. Now people just get envious when they see people living better than them. I'm like, it's so weird. What a change. I mean, I guess if we got to a point where we had nothing, you know, like a Great Depression, where during the Great Depression it was 25% unemployment, and so that's a level you don't want to experience, and so but the movie studios did well, and hair salons. And the reason hair salons did well is because women wanted to feel good about themselves, and so they would spend a little bit of money getting made up, and you know they wanted, to look nice. And so I thought, well, what's going to be the luxury item for people if we go into this some great recession in 2008? And I thought, well, you know, everybody's going to want to get their $5 cup of coffee. That makes them feel rich. Oh, I spent $5 a cup. I'm still doing okay, and I wasn't wrong. That stock took off, so. We sold the McDonald's stock to use for down payment on this house. Not all of the down payment, but it was a part of it. Sold the Apple. We sold the Walmart, which we did really well on. Both of those paid dividends. And we sold Intel, which also paid a little dividend, but Intel did really well. So I forget what else. Didn't sell the Microsoft because it had been flat for years. Now it's up like crazy. So, yeah. So I just... You know, I don't give stock recommendations, but what I do say is kind of hedge your life. What's a company you spend a lot of money at? If you're like big Amazon, like you just love, like you constant ordering from Amazon, buy some Amazon stock. They just split 10 for 1, I think, right? Or 20 for 1, I think. So it's more affordable now. You know, because it was before it was like $2,000 a share and up, and now it's like 150 or something, or so they must have done 15 to 1. So. I'm using 10s. Yeah, no, I don't use it. These are just standard 10s. I used to use 9s on my telly to get a little bit more slinky sounding, you know, a little more snap, you know, kind of nasty telly, you know, sounding. I use... on my acoustics, I've gone up to 13s, I think, now. So I'm using heavier strings on my acoustics. And I sometimes will use 11s like on Gibsons because I tend to overbend Gibsons. So I put a little heavy string on it, I get more resistance. And I'm less likely to bend sharp because I'm a Strat guy. And the curvature of a Strat there's more curve to it than a Gibson, which is more flat. It's radius. Yeah, they're not going to use the Chinese yuan to. You can't use a government controlled currency for oil. You can't, and the Chinese control the value of their currency. We don't. That's why our currency can kind of go up in value. It's when we went to Paris the first time in 2002. The dollar a euro was euro was brand new. 9/11 had just happened, and a euro was 85 cents. Our apartment was $700 for 8 nights for the 5 of us. It's practically free, and that's what when you hear about people coming to America to buy stuff like from Europe, it's because the dollar's devalued and the euro's worth a lot, and then things flip. Right now, the yen is actually on the wane, But those are all open market currencies. But the Chinese currency is not allowed to be traded on open markets. You can't. This is not going to happen. I don't. Yeah, no, 9s are good. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw that video that Beato did about 8s, like being the best for rock tone. I don't know. I mean, it's. I like some resistance. I feel confident when I know the strings aren't going to go too far. I used to string my guitars more differently so that every time I picked up a different guitar, it would have a different feel. But that just got to be too much work, and I just like keep them all strung with pretty much 8s now. So, oh yeah, I've tried to be bender. Oh my gosh, the first time I tried a B bender bops, Okay, so a B bender is this thing where um, they it's not cheap. That you can get guitars that have them already, or you can take, usually it's a telly, because you need that thickness. Like, see how this is beveled? I don't think you could put a B bender on this, but you basically hollow out a big chunk of the guitar, and you could do a double B bender. So it sends, like, if I push down on, like, the strap, then it moves this strap button. If I push down, and then the B string goes, it's like, it goes up a half step, or you can set it to go up a whole step, however far you want to go. And then you can have, like, I think a G bender or a B. You can have two strings do it, and you push down this way, and it pulls up the strap on. You push down on the strap on this side, like with your arm, and you could bend. So you'll see guys with B benders are doing this all the time. Or usually they just have one. They just have a B bender. I think Alex has a guitar with a B bender on it. Oh no, he has a palm one. If the top mounted one. It's okay. Bob's the first time I ever did it, I was like messing around with it, and then I went to kind of like, I was pushing on it, and I put my hand right here, and the springs, and sometimes they put plexiglass so you can see the mechanism. The springs on that thing are like almost like garage door springs. Oh my God. I let up, and I got the biggest blood blister right here. Like I got pinched like crazy right there. It was like, I got my hand caught, and I had to push down and take my hand out. And I mean, it was, so that was my very first experience with B-benders. So you got to be careful, because they are just like, they're a loaded gun waiting to go off. They're cool, but like, yeah, so if I play like that, so I'm playing like top 4 strings, I'm playing 7th fret, 7th fret, or even if I just do top 3 strings, so 7, 5, 5. So it's like you can think of it as an A sus, but it's really, it's like a D2. You can hammer on that pinky. But if I push down on the B bender, it automatically bends that. So, which is not a problem here, but like if I got my hand here, I can't bend that note up. With a B bender, I can bend that up. If I'm playing a triad like this, I can bend it. So it's, I can't really do it with that. But yeah, you can bend a note no matter where your hand is on in it. So that, or bend that string. And again, most people set it to a whole step, I think, right? Hey, Johnny, what's going on? Yes. Yeah, I mean, again, the ruble, they have zero chance of having. Now, maybe they may make you buy rubles to buy Russian oil, and they could do that. But the rest of the world that anybody that has to buy oil from Russia would do that, I guess, if they mandate it. But right now, it's set. Yeah, the whole setup is it benefits the U.S. It definitely benefits keeping our currency desirable, because and it wouldn't collapse the dollar necessarily, but it would definitely affect the value of the dollar. So you might see the dollar if they took it off the dollar. But it's, again, what's the option? You can't do. Is it the yuan or the yuan or whatever the Chinese currencies? I forget what it's called. The euro, no. Again, because they're not a big petro. I mean, they don't. We're a net exporter, and so yeah, I don't think that's gonna. And ultimately, you use 13s on your acoustic, Joni. Nice. Wow, you had 300,000 back in '90. Oh, you must have put it in. You must all put it in a .com. I'm a buyer and holder, so when I buy stocks, I generally like to look at stocks. I don't make stock recommendations, but one thing you can look at is stocks that consistently pay their dividend and consistently raise their dividend. So a stock that maybe every 4 quarters, 6 quarters will go up the dividend maybe 12 cents, and they go to 12.5 cents a share, or they go to 13 cents a share, or they go to 13.5, or they jump up to 17 cents. But as long as if there's, but again, this is like pretty boring stocks. These are not, this is like, also I tend to diversify a lot. So what I tell people, if you, I actually do this with a lot of people. I sit down with them and I say, here's what I want you to do. They want to get into investing. I said, first, here's what you do. I don't care. Oh, I'm going to miss the next up. No, don't worry about it. Because, but go to Yahoo, create a fictitious portfolio. You can call it whatever you want, and put $20,000 into 5 different stocks, and pick 5 different stocks from 5 different industries. So energy could be one. Well, you could choose a solar company for your energy. You could choose an oil company like Chevron or something like that. You could choose, you could even, energy could be oil shipping. There's oil shipping stocks. So you could do energy would be one, banking or finance. So that could be, it could be Zillow or, I don't know if Zillow's, Redfin's a public company, right? It could be Chase or any of the banks. It could be any of the brokerage companies, but just put one of those in there, put 10,000, pick one of those, put 10,000 in that. Maybe pick a retail. I'm not a big fan of retail. Walmart is, to me, is a hedge against recession, because if people are poor, they're going to be looking for deals. However they feel about Walmart is irrelevant. Walmart doesn't get so much negative press anymore because they're not the biggest company in the world. It's usually that's something that, like, whoever's the top dog tends to get a lot of negative press. But Walmart, a retail like Walmart or even Target, I've owned Walmart. Like I said, I sold Walmart to help with the down payment on this house. I own Target now. I'm way up on Target, even though Target dropped 30% in the last couple months, because they said that they were gonna have some issues in the future. But they're also, Target had a lot of stock they couldn't get rid of because people aren't buying unnecessary things. They're buying food, they're buying clothing, but not as much clothing as they were. So companies like Walmart, Macy's, are sitting on a lot of merchandise. So they're telegraphing that I don't know if you guys are even interested in this. But yeah, pick 5 sectors. And there's basically, I think, 11 or 12 major sectors, and then you have subsectors. But technology would be another one. So I consider like Tesla to be kind of a technology company, but you could consider that energy maybe, or you could definitely consider it transportation. I don't buy car company. I've never bought Ford or GM. My dad bought both of those and did horrible on them, so I just kind of stayed away from him. He did well on Intel, yeah. So I've been investing since I was a kid. In fact, one company that I bought, I still own the stock of when I bought when I was 17, and it's getting bought by another company. So when that happens, usually you benefit. This company that's buying it is based in California, and they pay a little bit higher dividend. And so I'm getting, like, it's $100 a share, and my stock's $50 a share, and I'm getting a half a share for every share I own. So half a share of their stock for every. So it could end up being the same thing, same amount. So. Yes, I bought Michaels when COVID happened. I thought, well, everybody's going to be homeschooling, so I'll buy Michaels, and I did really well on it. But I was bummed. I didn't want to sell it, but I had to because Apollo Capital bought it. But I think I bought like 500. I'm telling you the numbers. I think I bought 500. The reason I bought it was because I was kind of looking at it, and I looked at the PE ratio, and the PE ratio was like 2.5. I'm like, I've never seen a company with a price to earnings ratio of 2.5. I mean, that's not unusual, like to have 5 or 6 for a big manufacturer like car, like GM and Ford. Banking, is usually in the teens. Technology can be like no earnings, so there is no PE ratio, or it can be like 100 or 500. Insane because it's speculative. It's based on future earnings. But Michaels, the store, the hobby store, which I like Michaels, and they were PE ratio 2 was. I bought the stock for like $2. No, was it $4 a share? And I think I bought 500 shares, like $2,000, and they paid me $10,000. So I made $8,000 in just a couple months on that stock because it got bought by Apollo, and they made a giant offer on it. So that was. And I poured that into. I think I bought Tesla with that or something. But yeah, I was bummed that it sold. I bought Guitar Center. I bought Guitar Center stock, and I paid $7 a share. I bought 100 shares, just $700, and Bain Capital bought it. It was Bain Capital bought it for $14 a share, so I made $700 on my, $100 or my $700 investment. So, oh, I see. Oh, wow. Your grandfather was a PA. Okay, cool. Oh yeah, if you tune that 13 down, that yeah. In fact, if you're open tunings, like if you're an open D or DAD-GAD, yeah, you might want to go with a heavier set. You can even get it like customize a set where you have the bottom strings a little heavier and the top two strings are a little heavier. You can kind of create something like that. I'm sure somebody's got a DAD-GAD set because you definitely don't. I don't like it when I like the B string tends to be really loose, like a little pitchy when it's tuned down to A, isn't it? Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you really almost have to go with a heavier set. So 13 works. 13, I think that would be 17 maybe for the second string. So sorry, I'm just reading it, catching up here. Well, Bops, that was one of the things that kept me in the game. Because again, my career in music didn't get started until I was 48, in my late 40s. I mean, I was playing full time. I was full time musician, but I mean, I don't really consider. It was like I was teaching, I was playing at churches, doing $50 sessions here and there, doing some gigs here and there. But it wasn't until I, kind of got, when I was like in my late 30s, I got some cool stuff, but it kind of came and went, and it's been pretty consistent for the last 10 years. It's how we were able to afford, qualify for a house. Yeah, B, B, D sharp, F sharp, B, D sharp. So are you tuning the A up to B and then B? Yeah, that is a cool tuning. D sharp, F sharp, B stays the same, D sharp, okay. Yeah, so and the A going up to D, B isn't going to be a problem. The low E, you're going to want a heavier string if you're going to go all the way down to B. Oh, I don't have a stand. Hold on a second. Let me put this down. But yeah, I've always been into saving money. I've always been pretty tight, and that allowed me to stay in. If I have friends, I have friends that they got their first big opportunity, and the next thing I see them, they're driving a Bentley, and I'm like, really? Or they got all this new gear, and then next thing you know, you're selling it. Hey, you want to buy some guitars cheap? And I'm like, nah, maybe, So yeah, I was always like really slow to spend and quick to save, and so. Definitely thought about my future. The funny thing is my music writing has created an annuity for me. So it's a dwindling thing. So like if I stopped writing music today, then, my income would probably go down 5% every year from that source. It would probably never go down to zero. I mean, I'm still making money on things I did 20 years ago. So I don't think it'll ever go to zero. My kids, we'll be getting it long after I'm gone, which is, nice. They'll get these checks for a couple $100 every quarter, and they'll be like, "Oh, Dad, thanks, Dad." So, yeah. And one of the things I did to keep the music going was I managed the apartment building we lived in, so we got free rent in Los Angeles. So that's, and it was hard work, and it was frustrating work sometimes, but we did it for 25 years. I'm so glad that we bought our house right before COVID hit, like 2019. I'm so glad we weren't managing it. Although poor Alex, he's managing the building now. So, but yeah, the road. If you went on the road, going on the road, I've never done that. I never knew how to get those gigs. So going on the road is, I mean, if you're getting paid a lot of money, I know guys that did cruise ships, and it doesn't pay a lot, but you could feasibly go out for 10 months, and between tips and if you just get rid of your apartment, if you have a place to store your crap, if you don't have any rent or any bills at home, you're not paying for rent or food on a cruise ship. So, and you get paid, and so you can come out of a year on a cruise ship. I know it's funny because they did this story on how little. Like there are a lot of Filipinos on cruise, like a lot of cruise ship companies use Filipinos, and they're saying how poorly they're paid or something. And that's probably true, but to them, they're paid a lot. And I read a story about a lot of Filipinos work on cruise ships, and they love it because in 10 years they can make enough money to retire in their home country. I'm like, what? That's crazy. It was funny. It was like, yeah, all these interviews with these people, and oh yeah, no, we love it, and we love working. And some of them just keep working it because they just love it, and they're sending money home. But yeah, the money's not very much, especially if they're not governed by U.S. law, because these cruise ships never are. So they don't have the same kind of minimum wage laws that we have. But again, minimum wage for most people, if most people in the world got our minimum wage, they'd be relatively millionaires in 6 months. So and that's not a bad thing. Americans are very blessed, and we live very well. But yeah, it's hard when you're a musician, and if you think, if you have a hit early. I mean, when things started happening for me, I appreciated them. But I work with people that, they get something happening for them when they're 20, 30, or 20, 22, 23. I'm not talking about Bieber so much. I mean, he can't spend his money fast enough. So, but there's definitely, people I know that worked in those kind of scenarios, and they immediately thought, oh, I've arrived. And there's a window. I mean, my window's, I don't have a window for some reason. I was like, but there's a window of time, like, especially in pop, like there's generally a 5 to 10 year career for a lot of writers, producers. Eventually they either find other things they'd rather do, or people stop calling them, or the thing they do is no longer in vogue. Me playing guitar is always in vogue. That's one part of my thing. The other thing is my best instrument is my imagination, not the guitar. My imagination is my best tool. And so for some reason for now anyway, I've got one that I'm really good at thinking outside the box and coming up with things that didn't previously exist. So yeah, cruise ship, I think it is tax-free. You're right. It depends on where they're based, but yeah. It's not a bad gig. I just couldn't do it. I've never been on a cruise. I just don't like, I don't know. I'm sure some of you love cruise shipping. I'd rather just go to Paris, rent an apartment. Oh, I was going to say, the second time we went to Paris, the dollar was like $1.35. I mean, a euro was like $1.35. And so that exact same apartment cost us like $1,200 for the same amount of time that we paid $700 the time before. So yeah, the dollar, it goes up and down. And if the dollar is down, if the dollar's devalued somewhat, that's good for our industry, because that means more people outside of our country can afford our crap. So our industries do well because they sell a lot of our crap, right? But if our dollar goes up, then that's not good for those. But if the dollar goes up, say against the euro or against the yen or whatever, it makes traveling cheaper. So it means, okay, now's the time to go to Europe when the dollar's down. And everybody does that. Like Europeans do that here. When the euro is up, they come to America and they travel, and it's cheaper for them, and then they buy a bunch of computers and take them home. And yeah, it's crazy. So, hey Scott, good to see you. We're just chit-chatting now, talking about investing. Yeah, so like I said, if you're never invested before, okay, so the reason why I tell people, okay, come up with a fictitious $100,000, buy 5 stocks, put 20 grand in each one of those. So say, I'm going to buy 20 grand of Tesla. And that's your technology, I guess. And then Chevron, there's energy. And then maybe JP Morgan, there's your banking. And then you could pick McDonald's if you wanted to retail. McDonald's would be restaurants, but also considered broader, could be considered retail. And then, some fourth, fifth sector, I don't know, you could look at mining. I own, what's the company I have bought? Because they mine lithium and cobalt. So I bought that company because I figured if we're going to go to electric vehicles, then oil companies are going to start to wane on the long term, and companies that make batteries are going to be the ones that are going to go up in time. So I position some of my investments towards that, just towards what I foresee. It's policy that drives some of this, and then some of it's just people, And so that's why I like stocks, because you're investing in people. When you buy a stock, you're investing in everybody that works at that company. And they have a vested interest in keeping everything going, not just because they want their stock company price to go up, but they want to keep their jobs. So, yeah, I do research, but I don't kill myself with research. So, yeah, well, and the thing is, so the reason I tell them to do that, because that way they can see it go up and down. If it goes, their $100,000 is now worth $90,000, they go, oh, I lost $10,000 on the stock market. I'm going to get rid of this. And it's much better to lose it that way than for real, right? And so, but they also may say, oh, it's worth, 180,000 now. I've made 80,000, and like, man, I got to do this for real. Of course, if that happens, then the lesson they've learned is it's easy to make money in the stock market, and then they put money in the market, and all of a sudden they like it because of the peak. Now, here's an interesting thing about timing the market. Somewhere I saw a chart. You could probably do this yourself, okay? You could probably easily do this yourself, because you can take any year of the stock market, maybe take the S&P 500, because that's like the broadest index. Take the S&P 500 any year and sort the every day. So you can probably go to the up and down for every day for a year of S&P 500. And sort it, put it in order of the biggest gains. Okay, so the first slot would be, and you could do this probably with just on a spreadsheet that already exists. You don't have to go and get every 200 days of the year. You don't have to do there whatever how many, it would be 250 days or something like that. So yeah, you don't have to do it yourself. Somebody's already done it. Sort by the biggest gains. Okay, and you take those 5 biggest gains, and how much are they? You remove those, and say the S&P was up 8% for the year. If you remove the 5 biggest days, it probably was flat for the year. All right. So that's why you don't want to try to time the market, because you may miss those 5 days by being out of the market. If you look year over year for 50 years, the S&P is typically up about 6% or something like that. You can buy the S&P 500. It's called SPY. It's an ETF. ETFs are better than mutual funds, in my opinion. ETFs have a very, very low fee because they just follow a preordained set of companies, like the S&P 500. They change companies every now and then. When they change that company, then SPY, which is the symbol for the Spider S&P 500 ETF, SPY, like James Bond. Then there may be some stuff they do, but it's a very, very small fee that they take out. Whereas mutual funds, they can take it out as much as 2% or whatever. And the reason is because they're doing all this research, and they're going, oh, okay, now's the time to get rid of this. Now's the time to buy this. And like the famous was the Magellan Fund that made a lot of people millionaires, and that was Peter Lynch. And he wrote a book. And it was from his book that I kind of got the notion of hedging my life. What am I using the most of? Gas prices are going up. Let me buy oil, because I might as well benefit from that. If I'm going to have to pay more at the pump, I might as well have more in my IRA. If I'm a big Mac user, I buy Apple. I have a friend that only owns Apple stock. Of course, he's done very well, but it could have gone horribly wrong, right? It could have gone horribly wrong. Apple almost didn't exist in the 90s after what's his name left. So, hey, Humble, what's going on? Yeah, sorry, we're just chatting now. Sorry, we're off the lesson. You can go back in the lesson, though. There's a lesson in there somewhere. Sorry. So, yeah, there's going to be automation is going to be a big thing. Yeah, I think the Boring Company is a really interesting concept. Again, another Elon Musk concept. And there's other companies that are probably doing the same, starting to do the same thing. But the Boring Company, B-O-R-I-N-G, is, I think, a privately held company at this point, just like SpaceX. So you can't technically invest in those. But I don't know that Boring's making any money yet. But the cool thing about it is, yeah, they put I guess you sit in your car, and it's like, you know those pneumatic tubes at the bank where you put it in there and go, you suck it up? Well, that's what it's kind of doing that, but with magnets. Super energy efficient. And I think like speeds are like 180, 200, 220, like bullet train speed. It's a little scary though, because if it collapses or if there's a flood, it's like you're trapped. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But for moving, you're right. For moving materials, um, yeah, no, fiat currency. Yeah, the only thing is backing of the American dollar. Sorry, but I'm sorry, go back to the boring thing, the tunnels. If you move materials, then if it gets flooded, you just lose the materials. There's no people in there involved. So that definitely is the future. Could be the future. The nice thing about being underground is you don't have anybody that can mess with the tracks, or you don't have any of those concerns. You don't have to protect a bunch of tracks. But yeah, the fiat currency thing, my friends that are really into cryptocurrency is like, well, there's nothing that backs the U.S. dollar. Yeah, except the fact that everybody trusts it, whether that's smart or not. It's like if I show up with $1, I can buy something. I advised pretty much everyone I know not to get into crypto because I couldn't explain it. They couldn't explain it. If you can't explain it, I wouldn't buy it. Same thing with NFT. Somebody wanted me to do an NFT of my music, and I'm like, I did some research on it. I just felt like, and I had friends who were spending 20 grand for one token of a monkey head. And now they can't sell it, and it's worth nothing essentially. So yeah, I pretty much saw that whole debacle coming. It was the pet rock of the 2020s. Let's see, I think the G chord, some boring pipes since 2010. Wow. Yeah, imagine it. Yeah, and they took us off the gold standard a long time ago. I wish they hadn't, of course. And there were reasons for it. Some good, some bad. Mostly bad, but yes, no, Joni, of course, exactly. That's also the. I mean, I have IRA accounts, so I have to invest that money. You can't just let it sit there earning 0.01%. You have to put it in something. So if you're saving for your retirement and you are getting tax deferred stuff in IRAs, or Roth is really good because you don't get tax deferred, but you don't pay any tax. So if you get lucky in your Roth, say you bought a stock, you put all the money you had in a Roth in a stock that was $1 and it went to $1,000, and you were a billionaire, then when you take that money out, you don't have to pay tax on it. It's the way it was set up. You pay tax on the dollar when it went in, but you don't take any. They don't pay. And the nice thing about Roth IRA is it's ROTH, Roth, like Rothschild. You can take it out. You don't ever have to take it out. So if you want to leave it for your kids, that's fine. But a standard IRA, you have to, at some point, I think it's 70 or something, you have to start taking distributions. I'm actually getting distributions from my mom's IRA because she had already started getting distributions when she passed away. So if you inherit an IRA that was already getting distributions, no matter what your age is, you have to start taking. It's not very much because my life expectancy is long, so it's a very small percentage of what's in the IRA, if that makes sense. Yeah, we're adulting today, exactly, Rob. But actually, the truth be told, if I wasn't a musician, and this was a decision I made when I was 17. If I wasn't a musician, I would have been a broker or financial counselor or planner, because I love this kind of stuff, and I've done it since I was a kid. As far as money you can't lose, yes. Well, and I had a friend that, a friend of mine that was knew that I was into this, and he goes, I've got $1,000 to invest. I want to invest in something. What should I buy? And I said, what's your wife say? And he said, well, she thinks we should save it. And I said, well, then you should save it. And he goes, well, no, I want to put it in like Apple. And the funny thing is, if he bought Apple when I told him not to, he would have made a lot of money. But he took my advice and he put it into savings. But the reason I said that was, and his wife was totally right, but the reason I said that is he needed new tires. So he used the savings for new tires instead of putting on a credit card that he was going to pay 20% interest on, right? So I just guaranteed him 20% return on his money by not spending it. So the first thing I tell people is try to get to a place where you have 6 months of savings that you can live on. So if you lost your job or all of your income, you wouldn't have to change a thing for 6 months. You got to get to that place. That's the first thing you do before you start investing. So in my case, I was investing from a very young age when I was still living at home. And then I stopped investing when I was a single, starving guitar player in Los Angeles. Then I got married. My wife had a job. Still starving guitar player. But I kind of did this drip thing where I would put $25 in Intel, maybe $100 a month. I would put 25 in Intel, 25. Because here's the thing. You talk about, I can't afford to lose it. Yeah. It's unlikely it's happened. Enron is a good example. I bought Thornburg Mortgage. I put $3,000 in that, and it's worth zero. I've had stocks that went bankrupt. But like Intel, probably not going to go bankrupt, or some similar stock, AMD, Microsoft, things like that. That if it pays a dividend, you can reinvest those dividends, and then over time, the stock's going to go slowly up, maybe, or maybe big, and then down a little bit, and then big, and And I'm talking right now in the midst of a correction. We're past correction, so correction is 10%, right? We're more in a 20%. We're in a bear market, what's called a bear market, and I think it's up today, right? And look, it started. The futures, I saw the futures. No, it's down, but it's just not much. NASDAQ's down more than the Dow. S&P 500 is down 11. So, you just try not to overlook it. There's another one, S&P, that's, I bought, it's called Noble. What's the symbol for Noble? Again, it's another boring one. It's an ETF exchange. Oh, NOBL. And what that is S&P dividend, 500 dividend. So it's all the S&P, they invest in all the S&P stocks that pay a dividend. And so it pays about 2% a year. So it's not a bad, NOBL is the symbol for that one. So yeah, ETFs are great. I love ETFs. Much better than, I have some IRAs, but I just have, not IRAs, mutual funds. I'm just not a fan. Go for it, Gary. I'm doing well. My parents are safely assisted living. My dad is doing well. His numbers were fantastic before his second. Okay, good. You ain't got $6. Well, yeah. That. So put that. Just have it for when you need $6. Keep it for. You're gonna need $6 tomorrow. So don't. Just. One of the things that held me back in my career, and I'll admit this, was that I'm kind of a tightwad. So a lot of the guys that did well in LA were the guys that went ahead and went out and spent a lot of money on a vintage Strat, got the best amps, got the best pedals, whatever, got all the gear. They really got into it. They showed up with all the best gear, and I'm kind of showing up with not the best gear, or just not a lot of gear. But they also had big credit card debt or big debt. And so some of them did well, and some of them, they had to end up selling everything. So, it's a very, very small percentage of musicians that actually have a real career. So, just looking. Gary said, I saw a meme, the guy standing at a pump. Standard or premium? He said, no thanks, I'm just looking. Yeah, I actually put regular in my car for the first time in years. I almost always do premium. And I was just like, I'm in Los Angeles, so it was like I could pay $6.79 or I could pay $6.49. I'm like, I'll pay $6.49. It's miserable. But I hardly drive at all. So I'm here with you guys all day long. This is what I do. So yeah, so you can do this. So here's a little trick, okay? So for those of you that just get started or whatever, I get it, but you can buy one share of a stock, and if you have a brokerage account, it doesn't cost anything to have a brokerage account. You might have to have some money to start it, maybe $1,000 or something. I know that's like, I'll never have $1,000. Okay, I get that. But if you have $1,000, or some banks just will let you open a brokerage account. You don't necessarily have any money. So you can, at that point, you can put money in stocks. Well, if you start getting stocks, and again, this is one of the things we did. I invested in dividend stocks, like McDonald's, Walmart, Intel, Lincoln National Life. I'm trying to think of somebody else. RPM, which is a chemical. They make like Rust-Oleum, the most boring company. but they have raised their dividend every year for the last 50 years. It's like that stock is just like it gets through. Well, you're always going to need Rust-Oleum, and they keep buying all these companies. So if there's some, they may own WD-40 or something like that. It's like they kept buying all these little companies that made some kind of chemical use for either industrial uses or home use or. And so look up RPM, like our revolutions per minute. Look up that company and look at their stock history and their dividend history and all that. But you can have it like, for example, in Chase, you can have you can just default set it so that anytime you buy a stock, it automatically reinvests dividends. So if the market goes down, you're still reinvesting dividends, and you're buying those fractional shares at a discount. And then when the market goes up, you're not getting as many shares, but you're still reinvesting. With one button at Chase, so that I can change it so that all of my stocks, instead of reinvesting dividends, now just will pay the dividend in cash, and that would just go into my account. So I could go, and I don't have a number here, but let's say you could go from reinvesting. As you build your thing, it may be $100 a month is being reinvested. It may be $500 a month, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 a month. You're reinvesting in the stock market. You hit that one button, and now you've got $3,000 a month in income, where you didn't have it before. Now you're not building your, but you're not touching the principle of your stock purchases. So that's a little trick. So it's kind of one of those things where like it's a safety valve. You got like I don't know how much I would, maybe $200 a month or $500 a month. Any amount's going to help if you need it. Let's see. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, take care, Humble. Sorry. Yeah. Well, most musicians I know are not too far from homeless, so I get that. So again, I started doing a lot of this investing when I was a kid. Dividend reinvestment if you can, because again, if you don't have a lot of stocks, or don't have a lot of money in the market, getting that dividend is going to make a lot of difference. If it's like $20 a month, it's nice to have an extra 20 grand, maybe. I mean, 20 grand, $20, that month. But if you can do without it, then you just invested $20 that month without putting $1, without even feeling into the market. And now you have $20 more the next month to get. And if that stock goes up 50%, now that $20 became $30. And so that's how it kind of works. So, Lunchables. Oh, is that? You have a nice Rust-Oleum guitar. Yes, we hardly eat out anymore at all. Well, we ate out at my favorite restaurant one of my favorite restaurants in Pasadena, because we were there to see Alex play and Thursday, and I hadn't eaten there in 3 years, and it was so good. And because where I live in the valley here, we don't really have any good restaurants. Really, not it's just not the same. Pasadena, it's old money, so there's a lot of money down there, and so there's a lot of good restaurants. I probably spent too much money on restaurants, but a lot of times it was me. I would just get a salad or something and maybe a beer, so it wasn't too much. A lot of times I would go there for businesses. Yeah, in time, money can accumulate like junk mail. Yeah, but I went through the .com crash, which keep in mind the Nasdaq was almost 5,000. It went down to 1,100. So that's an 80% drop. And I had just bought. This is 2000. I had just bought Metro Media Fiber, which was the biggest fiber maker company in the world. And I thought, well, if the internet thing is going to take off, Metro Media Fiber is going to do well. It went bankrupt. So I lost all that money. I bought GE. That was a dog of a stock. And I bought, who's the internet router company? Cisco. So I thought I was being really smart, but I bought 3 tech companies right before the Nasdaq crashes. Right? Okay. I ended up selling GE for probably 25% of what I paid for it. So that was a bummer. I just got tired of watching it just sit there. Cisco just recently, like last year, finally hit the price it was when I bought it in 2000. So yeah, that hurt. Those hurt. It's like you look at those and you just go, dang it. But that was a timing thing. I had some money. I put it in the market right at the wrong time. But if you can ride it out, ultimately, the other stuff I bought during that time, Intel, Microsoft, have done very well. And so if you can ride that out. But there was a crash in 2008. There was a crash in 2020. That one we came back quick from. And there was also a crash in 87. And there was also a crash, I think, in 92. So it kind of does this boom and bust thing. Kind of makes me think it's the hedge fund people that are like directing all this so they can make a bunch of money at shorting everything. And then they long everything and they make the money back. And so that may be the case. But if you're just long, they can't really mess with you. If you just long means just buy and hold, buy and hold, buy and hold. Sell it when you need a down payment on a house is what we did. Keep in mind, you got to pay cap gains though. I knew that. I went in fully knowing that when I sold that McDonald's stock, and I wish I still had it because it's up like 150% since I sold it. Can you imagine? Gosh. But I had to sell it. I had to sell some of my stocks for the down payment. So yeah, GE was hot in the 80s and 90s, and then I bought it. After I bought it, it was pretty much always down. Yeah, I think if you look at the GE chart, I mean, do they even exist anymore? That's the hilarious thing. It's like they got so low in value. They were, I think, at one point the largest company in the world, and they've had to spin off so many things. So General Electric, you can go to Yahoo Finance and just enter GE. It's at $66. Oh, wait, what? Where you going? $66. Okay, so let me see. Chart. So if I pull up the max chart, interest. Oh, wait. No, I need to make it smaller. Oh, there we go. So yeah, it did really well in the 70s. It almost tanked to nothing in 74, which is interesting. But it came roaring back up from that. Did well in the later 70s, 80s. Yeah, 80s it did really well. In the early 80s it got up there. Let's see, paying a dividend, doing its dividend thing. How do I move this? Oh, I see. Here we go. All right. Yeah, so... Oh yeah, it got way down there. Like in 2009, that also hurt it. I probably got rid of it, right? Probably because of that. I don't remember. Yeah, where's the arrow? Weird. Oh man, yeah. I mean, you could see it just collapse, and it's just not. And that one is one of those ones where I think you can kind of blame management for GE's failure. But ITE, what's ITE? Is that yeah, no more. Yeah, old GE bulbs. Yeah, and they made airplane engines, which also was a problem, I think, because they had problems with those. They made engines. Cummins is one that's based out of Indiana, which I looked at. Cummins engine. They make airplane engines too. So I don't know. I'm not, the industrials. I don't buy a lot of like heavy industrial stuff. Although John Deere's done very well. I put John Deere in bets. I think Roth, and it's done really well. Because farming is always a thing, right? So farming is always going to be necessary, and if everything goes automated, John Deere is going to be on the forefront of having. They already have automated. I mean, they've had computers on their, GPS driven tractors for 20 years. Farmers use all that stuff, so they're big. Ironically, they're really big on technology. Shoot, they had cable satellite dishes before anybody else. So anyway, okay. So looks like everybody's gone. I bored everybody out of their minds. The weirdest live stream. But you know, I love to talk about this stuff. I took my broker when I was 17. He said he was so impressed. He was like the vice president of Merrill Lynch, and he was my stepdad's broker, and he became my broker, and I would hang out there all the time. And he was so impressed with my knowledge on stocks and stuff that he said, we'll sponsor you for the series, was it Series 7 test, I think? Which was a test to get your broker's license. You have to pass the test. You don't have to get a college degree, but you have to know a lot. And he said, we think you could probably pass it. His sons were also working there. And so they were like, yeah, you could probably pass this test. You know, we passed it, so you could pass it. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. You guys are smart. But they were pretty impressive. And I thought about it. It would be a whole different life. Probably be living in a big house. But no, I wouldn't be in California. I never would have moved to LA. I'd still probably be in Indiana. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but yeah. I wouldn't have met my wife. Wouldn't have my kids. So anyway, Bob's good to see you. You too. Yeah, life is funny. There's a movie that I want to hear about, or that I want to see, called Everything, Everywhere, All the Time, or something. That Alex said was really, really cool. So I think it's kind of like that. It's like just a whole movie of what ifs. Like, what if your parents hadn't met? What if your grandparents hadn't met? You know what? It's like there are so many things that brought us all to this exact moment that had to happen, and you start thinking about it and tearing it apart, you start freaking out. So anyway. Yeah, I think both Cat and John Deere are both good stocks. I think they're just solid. Guitars and investment counseling, all in one session. Yeah, and as far as like one thing, okay, here's another piece of advice. I had my Beth's brothers were working for Nucor Steel, which is a really cool company. I think I owned stock in Nucor for a little while until everybody wasn't working there anymore. But Nucor, what they did, they recycle. They're big recycling, so they take old cars and turn it into new steel. And they have baby steel plants. So they don't have these giant steel plants. They have little baby steel plants. And so they're kind of can be all over the place. And but one of the things that my brother-in-laws did was that they worked for the company and they bought company stock and only company stock. I'm like, you don't do that. I know this company's strong. I know you don't think anything's going to happen. But if it goes bankrupt, you'll lose your job and your savings. It's not a good idea. So I told you, okay, I bought Netflix, right? Remember I told you why I bought Netflix? Because I did a big gig for them, and I made like $700, and I'm like, in royalties. I thought it was going to be a lot more than that. And I went, oh, I think I spent 200 hours making that $700. And I said, well, you know what? Labor is the biggest expense for most companies, and apparently Netflix has no labor costs. So if I'm gonna get screwed, I might as well screw myself. So that's why I bought Netflix. So, not a bad, again, I hedge my life. I had Disney for a minute. I made Netflix took off. So I sold half my stake in Netflix and bought Disney with it because Disney Plus came out and I thought they might actually overtake Netflix. And then I recently sold Disney and bought something else. But anyway, because I had too much in entertainment. I had bought Comcast. So I was like, I got to get rid of something. And I thought Disney was, the Disney Plus didn't generate as much revenue for them as I thought. So I got rid of that. And I'm glad because it tanked ever since I got rid of it. So, yes. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Hold on a second. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Yeah. So streaming, where is it streaming? I don't think it's streaming yet. Oh, Peacock? No. How to watch it? It's supposedly really good. The movie studio is A24, and it's like a movie studio, and they actually have a lot of the movies reference each other, which is really interesting. It's like an old school movie studio. Yeah, so it came out March 25th, so it's not. I'm hoping it'll show up on HBO. Oh, that's another thing. See, I own AT&T stock, which I've owned on and off a couple times, But AT&T stock, AT&T owns Showtime. No, HBO, which has some of the best shows out there. So that's why I bought that. Yeah, well, I remember when Microsoft was a startup. So my next door neighbor, who was already rich, he had a ton of Microsoft, and he just was like, in Indiana, what he did was he got out of the war, World War II. He was in World War II, and he got out of the war, and he started building. He worked for a builder, and he decided to build his own apartment buildings. So he borrowed money and built apartment buildings, and by 40, he was retired, living on all the money from all the apartment buildings he built. So he wasn't managing them, so he was paying somebody to manage them, and then just give him dividends. And then so he just invested all that. So they had a really cool house in Indiana. They had because he knew builders, he worked with a really cool architect and built this like triple A frame thing. It was brilliant. It was beautiful. So. Yeah. I mean, for me, investments are fun. I've got money in my IRA that I've got to put in something, but I've kind of was like, I may have missed, I don't know. I don't know that we're in for an up market. So I'm kind of sitting on cash right now on some stuff, but if I really think we're going to a recession, and I'm pretty sure, let's see, we're almost at the end of the month. We're going to have 2 quarters of negative growth, which is a technical recession. We may not, well, we feel inflation, but we don't necessarily feel recession. And so we won't, I mean, we will if it happens, but a technical recession, I think, is two quarters of negative growth in a row. But again, just because it's technically a recession doesn't necessarily mean everybody feels it. Some do and some don't. But one of the stocks I was looking at, like if you Google recession hedges, you'll find things like, I think maybe Walmart might be in there, but like waste management, WM I think is a symbol. Waste management, because you're going to need trash pickup. That's not something you can get rid of. And so that, and consequently because of that, because it is a good hedge against inflation, waste management is up quite a bit the last 6 months because everybody's thinking we're headed to recession. So a lot of those stocks that are good recession hedges are already driven up because people are way ahead of you. So, but I do wish I still had Michaels. I love that company, and it was doing so well, and then Apollo bought it and they took it private. And I've had that happen. That Starbucks. So I was so up on Starbucks. I sold half of my stake because I wanted to get all my money out of it. So now all the money I have in Starbucks is all pure profit. And I'll tell you who actually is who has had like $400 million in Starbucks stock, and that is Kenny G. He was an original investor in Starbucks. So he walked away almost a billionaire from Starbucks. Kenny G. That's hilarious because he was from Seattle, and I guess he was friends with Howard. He was one of the few people in Seattle that had money, so he invested in this company. But I bought Dunkin' Donuts because the kids love Dunkin' Donuts. I'm like, they don't like Starbucks, they like Dunkin'. I'm like, all right. So I bought Dunkin' Donuts, and it got bought by a price. I made money on it. Anytime your stock gets bought, typically, unless you bought it at the wrong time, they're going to have to pay a premium to get everybody to sell. Kind of like what Elon Musk is doing. That's like happening in front of everybody right now. That's big news. And he's offering a price, what was it, 44.20 or something? 54.20. He wants to have 420 in the price. No matter what the price is, it's going to be 54.20, 44.20, whatever. He loves 420. He smokes a lot of weed, I guess. I think that's obvious. Yeah, WM is solid. Yeah, it probably pays a dividend, right? Now just so you know, if it pays a big dividend like 10%, you probably run away from that stock. Any stock that pays 10%. I chase dividends that way, and there's a reason why stocks pay 10%. It's usually because they're on their way down and they're going to adjust the dividend, and you didn't know that. Just, WM. Waste management. Yeah, it's a total solid. 140 a share, 150 a share. Let's see. Let's look at the last. I'll just look at the. Oops. Dang it. last 5 years. I hate when they're loading ads and you click on something you actually clicked on a chart. I'll do summary. Well, so January 1st, 2020, it was $92 a share. So it's up about 50%, a little over 50%. Dividends 1.77%, so almost 2%, which is still better than you get in your checking account. PE ratio 33, price to earnings. Not bad, a little on the high side, but probably historically accurate for them. Pepsi's another one that I sold to buy the house. And Pepsi drove me crazy. Because Pepsi kept buying companies and then spinning them off. So I had like Frito-Lays. And then I had, like chimichangas or whatever. I don't know. It was like all these different companies. They kept buying companies and then spinning them off. And it's like, that's kind of not a bad thing. But you end up with something like, what did I pay for this stock? How do I sell it? What do I say the price was when I sell it for cap gains? So you can't put Aslan's telegraphing right there. Yeah, I think Alon in some ways emotionally maybe a 15-year-old boy, which Aslan, that's pretty much close to where you are, right? So, well, Musk is pretty prescient, that's for sure, on things. So, I mean, the Twitter buy. He just loves Twitter, so he's rich enough to buy stuff. So he just loves tweeting, and so he's like, I think for him he's at that point where he can start collecting things. So yeah, it's Everything Everywhere All at Once is the name of the movie. Apparently, it's really good. So as soon as it goes to streaming, I'll find it. So all right, sorry. So next week we'll go acoustic, or I may show you the lick at the end. It's probably based on that second riff of the song, but hopefully you can get this down. It's a hard one to play it right, to get that vibe, and you might want to stand when you practice it because it'll feel better. So anyway, thanks for hanging out with me. Yeah, we peaked out early at 35, 36, like about 9:30 this morning. So it's been a steady. Everybody's still sitting with me. I don't know why you're hanging with me, but you are. But it's because you must be as bored as I am. Actually, I'm going to get to work. I'm going to have lunch. I haven't eaten yet today. So I'm going to have some lunch, and then I'm going to get to work. I may have to turn the AC down. It's a little hot in here right now. EEAAO is supposed to be out on HBO. Oh, good. Perfect. We have HBO. Oh, it's out on HBO. Okay. Well, I can tell you 15-year-old minds are definitely quick to learn stuff. That's, Frito-Lay, I know. Pepsi just bought, it was a Mexican restaurant we used to go to, and they bought it. And I'm like, if you go like to their website, you can see like our family of companies, or go to the Wikipedia page and see what they bought. But they've spun a lot of stuff off. I've been struggling because I bought Wendy's, because we used to go to Wendy's all the time, and I should buy Wendy's, and they bought Tim Hortons and then spun it off, and now I own shares in Tim Hortons, which is now owned by Restaurant Brands, and they're a Canadian company, and I can't figure out how to sell the shares. My broker can't figure out how to sell the shares, so I'm like, what do I do with this stock? I mean, it's like $1,200. I kind of could use that for Emma's wedding. That's like the dress. Right there's the dress. She's going easy on me. Is Elon Musk still worth 20? Because I knew that like Tesla was over 1,000 a share. I mean, I own Tesla, but I bought it pretty much where it's at now. I'm not up much on Tesla, but it's one of those things where in California you won't be able to buy anything but electric vehicles in 15 years. So I'm like, well, Tesla still seems to be leading the market in that. Everybody else is having a hard time getting the market, especially with supply chain issues. It's almost guaranteed that Tesla has no competition. Okay, yeah, it is lunchtime, Holly, here in California. So let's go get lunch. Oh yeah, Catherine, you're in Canada. You know what? I could gift them to you. I can. It actually has a thing on there, but I can't. I'm like, I tried to send it. The broker tried to get them delivered to my account. I'm like, couldn't do it. I did it with everyone because remember I was doing the dividend reinvestment, so I was going directly to the companies for that. And then when I decided to move them all into my brokerage account because I got tired of every 3 months getting paperwork from all the companies. It's a waste of paper. So I went ahead and consolidated everything into my Chase account and sold most of those things to buy the house. So it's what I was saving it for. So Bob Sweetman. Glutens for punishment. All right. Oh, Pepsi's going to make hard Mountain Dew. Interesting. That is interesting. Starbucks tried to do that with I don't know. Did they ever? They had a few of them around here, but I don't think they're still doing it. But they tried to do wine and beer sales at Starbucks. They could totally do hard, like frappuccinos. That would be. I mean, bars have been doing those for years. Okay, I'm out. I gotta get something to eat. So do well, everybody. Be safe. Stay cool wherever you are. And I'll see you on Monday. We'll do acoustic song Monday, probably. I think I already have one picked out for that. So we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.